background to the Attlee-Truman discussions, 1 million people cram New York Central Park to hear the president outline America's stand on atomic power.
There has been talk about the atomic bomb. We must find the answer to the problems created by the release of atomic energy. Indeed, the highest hope of the American people is that world cooperation for peace will soon reach such a state of perfection that atomic methods of destruction can be definitely and effectively outlawed forever.
Осталось 10, 9, 8, 7, 1, 0. Нажатие кнопки, все случилось ярчайшим.
Far beyond normal shipping routes they lie, and until 1952, only pearl fishing boats entered the blue waters and left the cliffs surrounding their shores.
Censored by the French authorities, but this picture is impressive evidence of the bomb.
The great result of the cooperation of education with research. This is another victory.
Emergency alert system capabilities.
This is an emergency action notification.
National alert and warning authorities, in coordination with emergency alert system participants.
My fellow Americans, as you know, our attempts at preventing nuclear war have failed.
Finally, Mars has accepted my sacrifices and unleashes me.
I see you, enemy. I see you, enemy. Enemy! Enemy! You are my enemy! And I swear total resistance to you with everything I've got. Disingenuous, fake, false, broke back, twisted, a defiler, a betrayer, a backstabber, a devil! You will pay. Yeah, you think I don't see your face, scum? You don't think I don't see you? I see you, you understand me? I know what you think of me and my family. I see you right back. You understand that? You understand that? You will fall! You will not bring humanity down! God is going to destroy you!
Yo. Fucking die. Whatever. Fuck it. So, you know what? Let me do this. Sources, controls. There we go. Let's turn off the preview. Maybe that'll help. Going in blind. I'm going in blind. Actually, no, I can't do that right now because I want to do this first. Okay. Welcome to Misogyny Mondays. Okay, let's look at some slap. Where to slap at? Where to slap at? Oh, this is great. This is really good.
I'm not gonna lie, I just feel like I just can't see my using the umbrella looking like Mary Poppins. Like, I'm sorry, I just cannot. And I feel like it's gonna be so bad when I say it, but I feel like it's sassy.
You know, it's pretty easy to tell people not to use umbrellas when you have the biggest umbrellas I've ever seen glued to your eyelids for constant use.
You could easily wear a jacket.
Why don't you just wear a jacket? Why do you wear an umbrella?
Like I said, it's sassy, so which means I feel like it's for girls.
My new motto is to never listen to anybody that has bat wings attached to their face. I have never in my life heard a single sentence of substance or insight come out of the mouth of anybody who has symbiote tentacles sticking out from above their eyeballs.
Here's why though. It's pouring down raining one day. And my grandfather, he's on his way out. And it's, of course, my grandmother, she had umbrellas. So I'm like, you know, you're not gonna take an umbrella? He's like, no. Real men don't use umbrellas. Ever since he said that, it's instilled.
Your granddaddy was an idiot. Fellas, is it zesty to use umbrellas? Let me know. Maybe I'm a little zesty. My fault.
I'm not gonna lie, I just feel like I just can't.
Zesty. Bro, it's fucking zesty to use an umbrella. You can't win. You cannot win. Oh, this was great. This lady right here. Just fucking spraying pepper spray in another car. Like, clearly not self-defense. This is self-offense. Fucking ridiculous.
Just sprayed pepper spray at my child? She just sprayed pepper spray at my car and my child. Pepper spray. Pepper spray. Pepper spray. This bitch tried to cut me off. She just sprayed pepper spray through the window of my child.
Mama, pepper spray, that's what
Yep.
Pepper spray.
First of all, ain't nobody listening to old school Destiny's Child anymore, so you need to get that off the radio. I'm a survivor, I'm gonna make it. That shit's over, bro. But yeah, you shouldn't be spraying pepper spray into another car and fucking spraying kids with fucking pepper spray. No. Nope.
It doesn't make any difference. If a trans woman is a woman, and if they want to use the toilet, then they're going to go into a cubicle, have a wee, come out, wash their hands, and go home. That's what the.
What's the kind of argument then why trans women couldn't go into a male bathroom or male space?
Have you seen trans women?
Yeah.
So why would you want somebody that looks very feminine going into a man's bathroom? It doesn't make sense. That's what doesn't make sense.
But they're biologically men, no?
It doesn't make any difference.
Oh man, here he is. The man, the myth, the legend. You love him or hate him.
Can you give me a definition of racism?
A discrimination against a minority class of people in order to create an imbalance in the society or a hierarchy based on something that is undetermined as of color, race, the color of your skin, or maybe even color of your skin.
Can you be racist against Asians?
Yes.
Can you be racist against white people?
I believe that you can have prejudice against white people.
If a group of black individuals, which happens unfortunately so often, say, we want to go beat up whitey, and they go beat up a white person, was that a racist thing that they did?
I would have to ask for further context, but yes. Based off of that,
cool.
Yes.
So, but then let's go back to your definition, because your definition was that it had to be the exercise of power. I'm going to make your definition better for you, because the exercise of power against a minority group.
Yes.
But in that case, it wouldn't be, because it would be a group of black individuals versus a white individual.
Correct.
So wouldn't a better definition of racism be a human being or institution prejudicing or stereotyping against anybody else because of their race? Can you give me a definition of racism?
What is going on? What else? I don't think I have a lot in the slop department today. Bro, this is why you need a gun in your home. This is why you need a fucking gun in your home right here. End of story, bro. End of story. End of story. I mean, what the fuck are you gonna do against fucking 4 people coming in your house? I mean, you can only see 4. Who knows if there's any more even behind that other guy that was at the door when the other 3 were already in. What else we got?
Body, her choice, and like that. My question is, if we give a woman the right to opt out of motherhood, should we also give a man the right to opt out of fatherhood and 18 years of child support?
I agree. You don't agree?
No, I don't know.
But if a mom walks into an abortion clinic and says, you know what, I'm not feeling this, and gets an abortion, the dad has no say, how come this mom can't, let's just say it's a one-night stand, just hypothetical, and the mom comes back to the dad and is like, hey, I'm pregnant. Why can't he opt out if she was able to say, hey, I don't want this baby? It's a double standard.
Well, he could obviously sign his rights away, but he cannot physically make he can
sign his rights away because he has to pay child support.
I mean,
he is legally bound by child support.
Honest, that's just the way it is.
I know, but do you think it's right?
You can't tell a woman to have an abortion. Like, that's it.
I know, but do you think it's right that a mom can say, I don't want this baby, but a dad never can?
I mean, I just think that's just the way it is.
But do you think it's right?
I mean,
yes or no? I don't think it's right. I think the whole system's
we spend so much time talking about a woman's choice.
Right, but the man doesn't have one.
But my only point is, what reproductive rights does a man have?
None.
There's so much talk about a woman's body, her choice.
I love that woman's response. Well, that's just the way it is. Oh, that's just the way it is. Okay. Can we just start doing that now? That's just the way it is. I don't think you're gonna like it. I don't think you're gonna like it if we just start justifying things by, oh, that's just the way it is. I really think you might regret giving us access to that argument, or anybody, not us, but anybody, giving anybody access to that argument.
This is London for you sometimes. I was just walking down the street.
I mean, no, par for the course kind of stuff.
I was just walking down the street to go get my medication because I'm out and I need it for today. And I saw a woman walking her 2 kids, and she had this look on her face. And I looked at her, we made eye contact, and we both kind of nodded. Like we were both just devastated. And you could just tell in her eyes. I can't believe this country did this again. Why did I let myself have hope? I was just walking down the street to go get my
I love how, like, stoic she looked right when the video started. Like, okay, I'm going to make a crying video. So let me get my TikTok set up. Push this, push that. Okay. Okay. And then as soon as you push the button, it's like, turn it on. Turn it on. Oh, this is why playoff hockey's great. I think this was from the Dallas game today.
Still playing the puck. Lost it to Johnston. Fired towards the net. Oh, the doorstep. Score! Dodaro! One time! Dallas in this third period. Still playing the puck.
I mean, I'm not even a Dallas fan, but I'm getting chills just watching that. Fucking love the playoffs, dude.
I thought you were a woman. I thought you were a woman.
Mental illness.
Liberals
Just
love
like-
being taxed up
Hold
the
on,
ass.
hold on, just like Carney's own daughter.
See this shirt? Live free or die. Go get another jab, you'll die.
Carney's own daughter is a transgender.
I'm really curious how this Canadian election's going to pan out. What else do we got here?
Reasons. I mean, we've talked about this that often I date younger men. And a lot of it is because...
Let's stop on that, folks.
Oh my God, we had a
Several
great dinner.
Yeah, let's snap. Let's snap to the fucking it's okay when women do it shit. Let's fucking snap to that.
We had a great dinner, by the way, where across the table, your husband goes, but why? And I said, well, maybe because I can.
Yes, Parish. This is what I'm saying. Tales from Tracy's.
It's fun. It's very fun to share.
Tracy tale.
But
you date a younger
I'm sorry.
woman.
But one of the
Younger man.
reasons, though, that because I had to ask myself that question, I was like, what is this about?
Yeah.
Because I want a partner, and so often, and it's not just that I'm older. I'm also very embodied. I am a full, very whole person who knows myself, who is in charge of my life, and who lives a very full, just robust life. So it's not just age, it's like life experience and sort of a difference. But I had to ask myself the question, why? Why does this keep sort of coming up other than they're hot and gorgeous?
There's that.
There's that. But a lot of men my age are steeped in a toxic masculinity and have been raised in a culture where there is a particular way that a relationship looks. And anything that starts to smell of that for me, I did enough of it where I was controlled and felt like I was a possession or whatever those things were, or prize, and I have no interest in it, and I will not do it again. Because I mean, we've talked about this that often I date young.
Yeah, no, nobody wants you, okay? Nobody in your age range wants you. That's what it is. It ain't It ain't because fucking this and that. It's because nobody in your age range wants you, bro. And that's fine. You know, that's fine. I think that's just the way it is. Right? That other lady said it. That's just the way it is. So I think that's a reasonable applicability of that principle. What's this?
Feminism isn't about hating men, it's about equality. No. Since the beginning, feminism has been about hating men. In 1918, an anonymous suffragette authored a piece called Advice on Marriage to Young Ladies. Do not marry at all. Avoid these type of men. Don't expect too much. Men are trash. All single men suck. Feed the brute. It's a great way to refer to men. And then it compares men to dogs. The conclusion says don't get married at all. For those who are saying feminism is not anti-man or anti-marriage, literally it's been that from the beginning. Feminism isn't about hating men, it's about equality.
I love the blue hair. You can't fucking do a feminism video without the blue hair.
Find me a anti-Israel protest in America that has anyone carrying an American flag. Find me a protest of that ilk that ever finishes with the singing of the Star-Spangled Banner.
Right.
There hasn't been one. There never will be one.
Or how about if it was a pro-Palestinian protest, then someone condemning let's say, and at least
Never
saying
happened.
that, right, you'd get lynched.
There's a brave young Iranian in London who occasionally turned out the anti-Israel protests with a sign saying this is a terrorist organization, which is a designation by almost all Western governments. And every single time the pro-Palestinian protesters attacked him physically. You'll notice that the pro-Israel protests that do sometimes happen, the pro-Israel rallies that have happened occasionally in America and elsewhere, they're always filled not just with Israeli flags, but American flags. And if you go to any of the small number of pro-Israel rallies in, say, Britain, they all finish with, they always have, Israeli flags and British flags, and they finish with the singing of Hatikva, the Israeli national anthem, and the singing of God Save the King. It is impossible to conceive of a pro-Palestinian protest finishing with the singing of God Save the King. That tells us something. That tells us something. In fact, maybe it tells us everything. These people hate Israel first, but they hate America and the rest of the West next. And they're coming for the rest of us next. And therefore, we should decide whether we have a benign and tolerant attitude toward these people or not. And I think we should not have a benign attitude towards them, and we should not be overly tolerant of them either. Find me a I
mean, it would be interesting if at least one person said, you know what? I love Palestine and I love America, and showed up to a rally with an American flag just to see what happened. I mean, regardless of how much ideologically or politically or policy-wise they had in common or agreed with the rest of the crowd. Ain't no way that person's surviving that rally. No American flags there. Speaking of American flags, this is kind of blasphemous, because this is a Marines barracks, and they have an American flag with Ice Spice on it. I don't know how I feel about the flag thing, but I do love barracks culture.
The message for the people of Gaza is going to be more of the message that should be sent to the people here, in that they have achieved victory. We haven't done anywhere near enough. And the people here, I promise you, we do feel ashamed. We do feel like we're not doing enough. We do feel like change needs to come, because change must come. And in the form that it must come is that this empire, the American empire that's been hurting our people since the beginning, the imperial Western powers that have been hurting our people since the beginning, they must fall. And inshallah they will fall. And my message to the people of Gaza and the oppressed peoples across the world is that there are people here, both young and old, who are going to be willing to fight and are willing to put their lives and everything they can on the line to bring these empires down, because they must come down.
Inshallah. Inshallah. What else we got here? I don't want to spend too much time on Slop. I don't even think I have that much. What was this?
Give me your information.
We have a deputy.
Huh? You have a deputy. I'm standing in front of you. Step out of the vehicle.
For sure.
Do you have your information?
I don't need to give it to you.
Yes, you do. Why would you not?
Because I came after you and you came to a big
Okay, step to the front of my car.
I could.
No, you will.
I could.
Go. To the front of my car. Go.
Now you're making me uncomfortable.
That's fine. Go to the front of my car.
I can't do that, sir.
Yes, you can.
You're putting your hands on me. Officer, you're putting your hands on me.
Sit right there.
You're a male.
Sit right there.
You're a male. I'm a
Sit
female.
right there.
You're a female. I'm a female. You're a male.
How do you know?
I'm a female.
How do you know what I identify as? Sit down. Sit. I don't care. Sit down.
No.
Where's your identification?
No.
Where's your driver's license,
No.
registration, and
No.
your proof of insurance?
No.
You've made this so much more difficult than it needs to be. Give me your information.
We have a deputy.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably just a minor infraction, you know, tail light or, you know, stop sign, something like that. Imagine being this fucking stubborn over a potential minor infraction. I mean, I don't know if it was a minor infraction, but, you know, him saying that you made this more difficult than it needs to be indicates that it was probably just some bullshit ticket, you know, pay $90 and then fucking be done with it. But also, you know, I love him saying, how do you know I identify as? Ah, touche. What else? Oh, more playoff hockey. Fucking hockey's taking over, bro. I love it. I love it. Anything else? Oh. I think this will be a good one to end it on.
The Western leaders, your borders are fading. Your disease is being sucked out, and the unity of the Islamic Brotherhood is taking form. The Sons of Islam have already pledged that this battle is a battle of either victory or martyrdom. We reject your flags, and the call for jihad has started, and it won't be long before it is you that will be feasted upon. The Western leaders, your borders are fading.
Inshallah. Inshallah, sister. Okay. Let's see. I need another beer. Yeah, I need another beer. So I'm just gonna start this. This is a debate that happened today with Cooley, the guy that does the No Fugazi podcast, Jake the Rattlesnake guy, who's the Australian guy that's been making his way in the American manosphere, and a guy named Soy Pill, which I think is actually a based fucking awesome name, and Wick TV. And they debate traditional gender roles. Do they have a place in modern society? So I think this goes well. I think this goes well with Misogyny Mondays. And I'll just play this intro while I go grab another beer. So I'll be right back. That's a hell of an intro. Holy shit.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Raging Tomato. I am Sarah, bringing to you live another Moderator Monday. This evening, I have David Cooley from No Fugazi podcast, Jake from Rattlesnake TV, The Soy Pill, and Wick TV here to bring us a debate on should traditional roles still have a place in modern society. Opening up this evening, David, would you like to give your opening statement?
Sure. So, should traditional roles have a place in modern society? It's crazy that we even have to have this debate about something that's rooted in our biology and our reality. It's only in modernity, with all of these modern conveniences like technology that men created and rights that men grant, where someone can feel so comfortable and privileged to even question something that's common sense. Imagine the olden days if you're with your wife and you play rock, paper, scissors, shoot on who has to go out, walk 50 miles, get some water, and fight the bear. She will be pissed, lose attraction for you, and break up with you immediately. Guess what? Nothing has changed today. Imagine you're at home with your wife and an intruder breaks through the door and you say, "Hey, honey, rock, paper, scissors, who's going to handle the bad guy?" She'll break up with you instantly and cheat on you with your best friend. Men and women have a natural propensity that's rooted in their biology to be attracted and repulsed by things in the opposite sex. Generally, men are attracted to feminine women that's submissive and nurturing, and women are attracted to masculine men who can protect and provide. This is how society flourished since the beginning of time. In today's time, we see the negative results that
I'll be right back.
we see the negative results what happened in society when you move away from gender roles. Feminism plus media pushing propaganda telling women they don't need a man, they're independent, and to prioritize their career over a family and children, which led to a major birth rate decrease, along with 1 million abortions per year, and women initiating 70 to 80% of the divorces. Men are weak and docile and don't have any emotional control because many of them don't have a masculine father in the household to block out the negative propaganda and instill and guide them in their natural masculine role. So I say this to say that gender roles is part of the human existence. If is there's no getting rid of it, and anyone that thinks and tries that they can get rid of it, they're an idiot. That's my
Fair enough. Thank you, David. Jake, to you.
Yes, good to see you all today. Happy to be here. I also am in a similar boat to Cooley, that when I saw the topic of the debate, I thought to myself, this is just a complete common sense no-brainer. Do we need traditional gender roles in society? Yes, we clearly do, because if women don't have children and if men don't procure and refine resources and if men don't build things, then our civilization will likely go extinct. So on that level, on the societal level, it's very obvious. But then you look at that as a microcosm of even relationships. We can get into that obviously during the course of the debate if you want. I think that you'd have to seriously touch some grass if you were to take the opposite approach here and say that there isn't room for traditional gender roles. I can't imagine how deep into a Reddit rabbit hole or how terminally online you'd have to be to think that that women would be happy to do away with masculine men, because women are clearly repulsed in the most part by very feminine men, and men tend to love and appreciate feminine women. So gender roles are not only necessary for the survival of our civilization, but even on the relationship level, on the micro level, they're completely necessary. And with that, I think I'm very excited to hear what our opponents' arguments are.
Thank you. Soy pill to you.
Yeah, I believe that gender roles, insofar as they're defined by what is socially expected of men and women, should.
Yeah, what's up, man? Did you see the yay shit? No, what happened? What did he do this time? Is it on Twitter? I told you wouldn't believe me. Really? Is it something I could show? Or is there anything to show? Left field. Let's see. Yay. Ye's new song killed the Pope. song's called "Cousin" about my cousin locked in jail for life. Is it something we can watch, or is it something that cousin? Yeah, 12 years old. So that's why Ye was so touchy about this joke, gay fish. Oh, he dropped a song regarding that tweet. Just this song is called "Cousin," about my cousin that's locked in jail for life for killing a pregnant lady a few years after I told him we wouldn't, quote, look at dirty magazines together anymore. Perhaps in my self-centered mess, I felt it was my fault that I showed him those dirty magazines when he was 6, and then we acted out what we saw. My dad had Playboy magazines, but the magazines I found in the top of my mom's closet were different. My name is Ye, and I saw... Oh my God! Oh my God! What the fuck, dude? What is that? I mean, I don't want to laugh at this, but I'm just laughing at how ridiculous, like this is not something, this is the last thing I expected to see on a Monday night here. The song is worse. Oh man. I think I'm gonna just err on the side of caution and not play it. I don't know. I don't think it's probably worth. Well, actually, let's look and see if we can find the lyrics. Let me see. Oh, that's just about the worst website you could go to. I saw you outside again, just hanging out with your friends. Hanging with my cousin, reading dirty magazines. We seen some ends kissing. We ain't know what that shit mean. Then we start reenacting everything that we had seen. That's when I gave my cousin head, gave my cousin head, gave my cousin head, I gave my cousin head, I gave my cousin head. This is so... He's like just doing... I guess he's just on a radical honesty tour at to his own detriment, because this is... Song outside again, and I know these ends about to judge me now, and I know these ends about to judge me now. Started off when we was hanging out, told my cousin not to tell nobody. Please tell me, take it to my grave. Truth will set you free someday. I don't think they understand that I'm attracted to a man. They thought I was gay. Dave Blunt's Kanye. Who the fuck would want to be on a song with him? Who the fuck is Dave Blunt's? The original music, so lyrics, videos provided. I'm good on any videos or audio, dude. I don't think we need it, man. I think just reading it says about it as much as you need to. What else does it say here? First of all, why would anybody want to be on a song with him like this? Like, who is Dave Blunt's? This is crazy. Verse 2, Kanye and Playboy Cardi. Playboy Cardi. Digital Nas was one of the producers. Dave Blunt is the dude whose lyrics he bit for the end. Okay. Nitrous don't help me, it just put me in a trance. I'm talking about euphoria. I am not talking about a man. Told her don't leave me cause I need you by my side. As long as you don't leave me, then I'll probably be alright. And that one time that you left me, I didn't get no sleep that night. And that one time that you left me, I took 10 perks to get high. 10 perks to get high. Pray that I don't die. But if I die, you see in the sky 2 pints of the kwa-kwa. The kway-kway or kwa-kwa, whatever that is. Don't leave. Just stay, bae. Let's go on vacay. Leave the world behind. That is fucking crazy, dude. No, I had no clue. I'm glad that I kind of live a life where this kind of stuff doesn't cross my algo. He just changed some of the lyrics. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's something. That explains some of the stuff that I was seeing on Twitter there. Yikes, dude. You know what I'm really curious about? I'm actually curious to see what Nick Fuentes' reaction is going to be to this, because him and Ye are like best buds, and he routinely like shouts him out on his show. So I'd be really curious to see what Nick Fuentes has to say about this. That is crazy. Wow. Oh God. Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, thank you, Maida, for showing me, for updating me. Okay, let's do this. Okay, let's get back to it. I'm playing a little Fallout 76. Gonna just chill.
Should be done away with, but that's not to say that women shouldn't give birth or that men shouldn't utilize their natural strength. And to be clear, I don't think that gender roles are exclusively harmful, and I don't think they should disappear tomorrow. I think there's plenty of positives that come from the expectation that men should be hardworking and protective, or that women should care for others and nurture our youth. But what I think is these societal expectations, which we use to encourage good behavior, don't really need to be gendered, and that aspects of gendering them are harmful. For example, toxic masculinity gets a lot of pushback because people think it demonizes all of masculinity, when really it's pointing to the failures of gender roles, telling men that they need to be stoic and strong, but not allowing them to be emotional and deal with stress or failure in a healthy manner. On the flip side, women might downplay or discourage their own intelligence and ambition to fit into this role of a subservient homemaker. So I think we can learn from the good that gender roles encourage and really apply these as virtuous behaviors to all people, and that any biological dichotomies, which won't go away, don't need to prescribe behaviors. Ultimately, I believe that people should have the freedom to choose outside of some gendered expectation.
Thank you, Soy Pill. Wick, to you.
Okay. So tonight we're going to talk about gender roles, traditional gender roles specifically, and if they have a place in modern society. I think to answer this question, we gotta inquire a little further. What place in modern society should gender roles have? Neither me nor Soy Pill here are going to be arguing that we should abolish stay-at-home moms or prevent men from working or anything like that. The core question, I think, to tonight's debate is this: who should be allowed to decide what role a person performs in their life? The government, one's community, one's neighbors, or, as I would argue, should the individual be able to make the choice for themselves on who they want to be and what they want to do? Should society or the government restrict access to a woman who wants to enter the workforce, who wants to start a business or run a company? No. Should society or the government restrict access to a man who wants to stay at home to raise his sons and daughters while his wife goes out and earns money for their household? I don't think so. The question is, who gets to decide? The argument of men should fulfill this position in the family or this position in the workforce, while women should fulfill this other role in the family and this other role in the workforce, is a very anti-merit based argument. Me, I'm a merit guy. I believe that the best person for the job should do the job. If it happens to be a man, great. Happens to be a man. Happens to be a woman, then it is a woman. When we try and shoehorn individuals into these pre-programmed slots, we stymie innovation, creativity, and productivity. Let us cast off these chains of these DEI gender roles that my opponents here want to push and really stick to what matters in the long run, which is merit. And that's my argument today. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. As a kind reminder to everyone, we will go through the debate, do closing statements, read and respond to your super chats, and then, of course, your most favorite, we will open up for open panel dumpster fire. Gentlemen, the floor is open.
Yes, fellas, good to meet you both today. I'm interested to know about the perspective in regards to how we are meant to procure and refine resources and actually build things if we don't have traditional gender roles. And by traditional gender roles, I mean that men have their masculine duty, which is to build the infrastructure of society. If we don't actually have that, and if that's completely obfuscated, and if men don't fulfill that duty, then how do we actually build things in society, and how do we procure and refine resources?
Yeah, I can address this. So I think the mistaken statement here is that by saying we don't have gender roles, that somehow that means we'll do away with the concept of men being this predominantly military force, or men being predominantly this force of strength and building, or doing all these things that women can't embody based on merit, like Wick said, right? Like if there is some specific strength role that they can't fill because they're naturally not as strong as a man, somehow that means that it's a gender role for the man to do that. When really all we're saying is, yeah, of course, we need people to build society. We need people to give birth. We need people to defend our country. But these aren't things that should be for all men to do. These are things that some are exclusive to men because of what needs to be done there. But that doesn't mean that we're saying, hey, you're a man, you have to do this. And that's just kind of exemplified by the fact that most men don't do these things. Most men don't have manual labor jobs. Most men don't serve in the military. Yeah, I get that. But in like, if you look at it in this societal context, if men were to stop doing that tomorrow, if men were to stop performing that role, because it is a role, and we do have guys who get up and work with electrical lines every day, and guys who do roof tiling, and guys who do concreting and ice road trucking, that is a masculine role because women aren't actually physically capable of doing those jobs for the most part. There might be some Game of Thrones ladies out there that can do the job, but for the most part, they can't do that job. And what we see in society is that those duties do get fulfilled, and it's because it is a masculine imperative. And when I look at those duties being fulfilled, I think that men have to have an incentive to actually fulfill those duties. And the incentive, generally speaking, is that they can have a wife and they can have a family and they can provide for their family and they can live a life that's not lonely and that's healthy and that has relationships and kids and all these sorts of things. And if you actually deprive them of that opportunity, and if they can't have a wife, and if women aren't fulfilling their feminine roles, which is to have children and be wives and mothers, etc., then there is no incentive for men to keep on doing that. So we're at a stage.
Fucking computer. I don't know what's going on my computer, man. Like my main screen is blank. The game is up, but it's frozen. I can't see anything on that screen right now. It's driving me nuts.
Now in society,
where we have a much
lower birth rate, where people aren't pair bonding as much when they're younger, and then men, I think, have less and less incentive to actually fulfill those masculine roles, and they're wanting to become TikTokers and YouTubers now instead of becoming plumbers and carpenters, etc. So there is a bit of an issue actually playing out before our eyes with this.
Go
ahead.
Sure. When you say incentive to perform these roles, I mean, they do get paid a salary. The money is exchanged. You're offered a contract. Say, hey, if you do this job, we will give you X, Y, and Z. Here's the money you'll get per year. Here's the benefits you'll get per year. So when you say incentives, I think you, and correct me if I'm wrong, you seem to be implying that there's a lack of incentive for men to fulfill these roles.
Do you think that incentive is purely materialistic?
If I may finish my question, right? There's a lack of incentive. If I can finish my question.
Let him finish the thought, please, and then you can respond, Jake.
It's a simple question. I get it. Yeah.
I mean, you don't even know my question. You haven't even heard me answer a question.
You're saying that is the incentive purely materialistic? You're saying that they have a materialistic.
That's not what I'm
incentive.
asking you. And if you listen,
go ahead
maybe
and finish the question,
right?
Wick.
My question is, my statement here is that you seem to be implying that this materialistic incentive is not enough. So I'm going to ask you directly, what incentives do you think that are lacking for men today that you think men should have access to? Should a company provide them a wife or something? Is that what you're trying to imply?
Should a company provide them a wife?
If not material, if the material incentives that they are offered are not enough, which you seem to be implying, is that not correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if that's the case, what extra incentives that they do not yet get are you wanting the company to offer, or the society to offer,
I never
or a
said that
community to offer?
it was incumbent upon the company to offer that. I said that men are incentivized by the idea that they can have a wife and that they can actually pair bond and they can mate with the opposite sex. This is what incentivizes men to build things. This is what incentivizes men to go out and create things. And also, men are very incentivized by the idea of legacy. Men want to pass on their genetics and they want to have a legacy over multiple generations. And if you don't think that men are incentivized by legacy and by the opposite sex, then that is just a completely delusional take. It's not incumbent upon the company to provide them with a wife, but societally, we should be in a stable society. A man can go out and work hard and make something of himself, and then he can have access to a wife and have access to being able to carry on his lineage, because that incentivizes men to go out and build things.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with any of your descriptions of that some people are absolutely incentivized this way. I'm curious what you're prescriptively suggesting, because I mean, if you look at any of the countries that are fighting, and this is happening all over the world, by the way, this kind of lack of replacement birth rate, whether it be in a more progressive place where you would say, oh, this is because of a lack of gender roles, or because it's in Hungary or Georgia where they're doing incredibly like pro-natalist policies that just aren't working. I'm curious as to why you would think that somehow returning to these gender roles would necessarily be the solution to what you deem as the collapse of society, especially when someone like South Korea is facing like the worst of this replacement rate, and they are one of the most traditionally conservative places in the world. It doesn't seem like it's a proper solution. And we can address, I guess, all the arguments about whether or not this has anything to do with whether or not we should prescribe these pro-family values in everyone, regardless of their gender. I don't think this is exclusive to men or women. And I don't think you can point to a country that is embodying this and somehow doing it because of the gender roles is succeeding.
So you said you can't point to a country that's succeeding in what, sorry?
You can't point to a country that's succeeding because of like they're strictly adhering to like all men need to do this, all women need to do this, and therefore now we have prosperous high birth rates and our economy is flourishing.
Yeah, I just don't see that happening. We can point to a country, Israel. You look at Israel and they've got a birth rate above 3. And one of the reasons why is because they have an Orthodox Jewish community that has a massive birth rate. They have a big IVF program, which is a bit, that's a different conversation. But they've also got the sort of family structures where the grandparents will come in and look after the children, etc. And they also have a lot of shame around having children outside of wedlock. So there's a lower rate of single motherhood, etc. But also they've got another thing, which is nationalism. They've got a lot of countries around them that want to take them out. So obviously they need to reproduce. And one of the Palestinian leaders, Yasser Arafat, is on record saying that his greatest weapon is the woman's womb.
It's Misogyny Mondays, so we're doing
around them think that they want to breed them,
traditional gender roles kind of stuff,
whatever. So
sure. This is a debate that happened earlier today.
That is a good example. I'm happy you brought that up because that wouldn't be one that I would think of. But then I guess that would kind of contradict the whole idea of gender roles when I think of the fact that we put I'm paid by them, by the way. They put women and men into the IDF to serve in the military, and like it seems like they're, if anything, kind of moving away from traditionally masculine, traditionally feminine things. Now, if you want to argue, we need to encourage some degree of like birth.
I mean, it's just chill stuff to have on right now. It's Monday. Okay, I kind of want to just play Fallout 76 and hang out. I'm not sitting here watching fucking, I don't know, anything else. The topic is traditional gender roles. Do they have a place in society? And the two guys on the left are like Manosphere podcast dudes, and then the two guys on the right are like liberal, Twitch poll types. So yeah, nothing crazy. I don't. Corp said this girl is ugly. Who, Raging Tomato? I don't think she's ugly. I don't know. I don't think she's ugly, but whatever. I'm sure Gorp would go on Raging Tomato. I'm sure Gorp's either been on Raging Tomato already, or Gorp would go on Raging Tomato, though. I think she's pretty. I think she's attractive. I don't know if she's pretty, but I think she gets the job done in terms of that department. But yeah, I'm just chilling. Just chilling today.
pro-natalism to make a country survive, especially when it gets this dire, I wouldn't even argue with that necessarily. I just don't think that's the same thing as...
I was listening to a bit of it earlier. They do, it does, I think it takes a bit to get warmed up, but they do get into some interesting topics. I mean, they obviously hit on birth rates, for example, and then once you start hitting on birth rates, you get into these inevitable types of conversations about, well, if the birth rate drops below a certain threshold, should the government be able to force women to have babies and that kind of thing? And I think that's where a lot of the gender role stuff starts to get interesting in terms of their arguments. But I think it takes a little bit to warm up to get there.
Society expects from people and saying that you need to do this or you're not a real woman, and you need to do this and you're not a real man, which is kind of
a few points to touch here. So first of all, in terms of the Israelis and their the IDF, the women are all in support roles. The women are not out there on the front lines. If you look at the death toll
what
of
should they
the
be focusing
IDF
on?
to women, it's substantially more men. The women aren't going and fighting. The women are making TikToks, and they're probably making the sandwiches for the guys and stuff. They may be standing at the traffic stops and pretending to do something. It's a little bit for show, but it is a part of this sort of nationalistic push that they have, where they're like, everybody has the duty to serve the country, etc. You also brought up Japan and South Korea. These are really good examples. Now, what this actually does play slightly into the favor of what you guys are saying, in the fact that there are other explanations for collapsing birth rates. One of them is urbanization. One of them is as a country becomes more wealthy and people live in smaller places and the population grows and people get more urbanized, they want to have less kids because it becomes less affordable. But also, these countries are atheist countries. They're not religious countries. They have some sort of cultural traditions, etc. But I think that the birth rate problem is a deeply religious problem, and it's a similar problem that we're having in the West at the moment. That as we go away from religion and as we go away from God, people have much less incentive to actually procreate.
Why would you say then it's happening in Georgia, which is like a kind of Orthodox country, or why would it be happening in these like sub-Saharan communities, which have religious ties, and people like to fearmonger about how they're going to birth all these crazy migrants with these high rates, and yet they're also seeing the same decline. I think if you look into this at all, you'll see that there's actually no consensus as to why the birth rates are falling in all of these countries with completely different environments. It seems to be, I think there's a quote from someone that said, hey, if you could solve and show why this is happening, you'd win a Nobel Prize, because it's kind of baffling people as to why it's literally happening across the board, across all these countries. Like, how can that all be from religious or lack of religion?
And if I may piggyback off that just real quick.
Go ahead, Wick.
Quick,
you can
right?
piggyback
This idea
off
that the women who serve in the IDF are just kind of standing around pretending to do things is just not borne out by the facts. A lot of them do serve in security roles and other types of places. While yes, they're not all on the front lines fighting, I think logistics serves a valuable and logistics wins wars, frankly. And those are the people who are putting their lives on the line. And I just think that to point out Israel as a place that has moved away from gender. That has moved away from gender roles in a large society, and using that to kind of promote your point that we need to stick with gender roles just doesn't connect. There's
I've heard that Ethan Klein's wife is a Paris, and I don't think that could happen if she just was making sandwiches, but I'm not sure.
I wanted to give Cooley the opportunity to jump back in.
I see where you guys are going with this. So the big thing, it's influence. Influence is the big thing. Like Jake is saying, he's saying religious is an influence, and then traditions is an influence as well.
The problem with birth rates dropping isn't the raw numbers. It's probably actually a good thing. Less people. The problem is the smartest people in our countries that are having less kids. Underclasses are still reproducing above replacement. How do you propose you solve that one better? How do you solve that one, Conrad? I'm curious. It's I don't think I've ever seen that argument from that side before.
So question to you, Soy. You said that in your opening, you said that you believe that people should have freedom to choose. So let me just ask you a question. My question is, should people, should we promote and push gender roles to move society that way? Should we influence people to adhere to gender roles, or should we not?
Right. So I think what's kind of been happening up until now, and we've kind of deviated this in the recent years, is that we have been pushing gender roles. We say, hey, men, you go work, provide for your family, you'll be happy. Hey, woman, stay at home, make the home, raise the children, you'll be happy. And as we've kind of moved away from this, you see that the stickiness of kind of pushing these roles is, I think, causing more harm than good in certain places. I don't think these are completely useless, by the way. I agree, we should be promoting men to be hard workers. I just don't think we shouldn't be promoting women to also be hard workers. I think any of the good things you can take from these roles could be applied across the board. And unfortunately, what's happened now is because we've told men for so long, hey, if you're a hardworking go-getter guy and go get a job, that's all you need to do. What that has done is created this kind of male loneliness epidemic where they realize, hey, I've done everything the gender role told me to do. I'm stoic, I'm progressive, I'm strong, I'm going out and I'm working, and it's just not enough anymore. And it's because we've limited what a man should be to this very narrow pigeonholed sort of definition. And I think that it is just more harmful to society than just saying, hey, everyone needs to go out and do all of these virtuous things that we've been promoting with gender roles, just not exclusively to gender.
Yeah, got you. So you really haven't answered my question. So remember, in your opening, you said that people should have the freedom to choose, freedom of choice, right? So my question to you is, if people have the freedom of choice, right? Choice, what should we influence them? Like if you influence
Yeah, so
someone,
I know it's vague when I say virtuous.
Let me finish it up.
Let him finish it, and then
If you influence someone, they still have the ability to adhere to whatever you're influencing them on, or to neglect it. It's still choice. So my question is, should we influence society about feminism? Be an independent woman. I don't need a man. Or should we influence people to say, hey, you know what? These gender roles, these traditional roles, these are things that's good, even though they can still choose something else. We do see today with the influence of feminism, it actually led people to make a choice to not prioritize family and children and stuff like that. So my question to you again, should we influence people to adhere to gender roles? Yes or no?
Right. So sorry if this is vague.
No solving, in my opinion. Whichever society can solve it will inherit the future. In my opinion, we are headed for a future that is racist, very religious, and low IQ. Because that is who is reproducing in this ecology. Okay. I wonder if Anoke would agree with you on that. I'm curious if there's any common ground there between you and Anoke on an opinion like that. I don't think he'd disagree with you on that one. I think maybe he might propose a solution possibly, in terms of solving it. But the description that you gave, I think he would definitely, in terms of like a future that is racist, low IQ, and religious. I think he'd probably. Although I've had this conversation with Tim before, he thinks that society's getting less religious over time, and I think that's probably been pretty true over the past century. But I don't know that it's true now. And I can't exactly explain why. It's more more personal, just because I've seen my family go through it, and I can only imagine if you scale that up what that looks like. That's where I'm coming from in terms of that. So him and I disagree on that. But I think I agree. Yeah, it's going to get more religious. I don't know about low IQ, but no progressive solutions. They say we need maternity leave, universal health insurance, or whatever. We have that in Europe. How are our birth rates? Oh, interesting. I would be really curious to see what his arguments are then. Given a response like that, I am curious, because that does sound like something that NOK or like Red Radius, or not that they're the same. They're not the same. NOK is more like SOCDEM, and Red Radius is obviously more like unapologetically liberal. But either way, I think they're probably in the same boat in terms of the maternity leave, universal health care. But I would be curious to hear what their response would be for someone to tell them, look, we already have that in Europe, and our replacement rates are still fucking low as hell. So tell me why that's happening. I wonder what their answer to that would be.
I promise I did answer your question, but I'll try to elaborate a different way. So when I say,
It's just
hey, we
yes
should
or
promote
no.
virtuous, well, okay, no is my answer, and I'll explain why.
Okay,
So
got
I
you.
do
So
think
you
we should be
want boys
promoting
to be
virtuous
girls?
behaviors.
Hold on,
girls
Cooley.
to
Let
be
him
boys,
let him
Yeah,
elaborate.
that's not what I
Please.
said. So I think we should be promoting good behaviors that make society better. I think that gender roles as those behaviors are limited in the fact that if we tell everyone, hey, men can only do this and women can only do that, and if you're out of this spectrum of what I've defined a man and a woman should be, you're doing something wrong. I think that limits more than it helps at this point. And I think that all of the good things that do come from that, we can do agendered. That's what I'm saying. So no, I don't think gender roles should be promoted, because I think the good behaviors are independent of those and can be influenced independent of those.
Can I ask you a question, Cooley, if I may?
Sure. I was going to reply back.
Go
Just
reply.
go ahead.
I can wait till you reply. It's fine.
Wick. You're fine.
Okay.
Ladies first.
Ladies first. Well, as I said, you can go to Soy. Go ahead.
No, I'm not really, Wick. You can go ahead. Go ahead.
Sure, fair enough. I try to be kind, and thank you for allowing me to go. If a man wants to stay at home and raise his children, which is not a traditional role that a man has, and his wife wants to go out and work and earn a living, etc., do you think that society should look down on that man for doing that?
Do I think society should look down on that man?
Yes, that
for
society,
doing
his community, his neighbors, etc., should disincentivize that man from doing that. Should look down on him.
Two answers.
etc.
Two answers. One, generally speaking, his wife will look down on him. So that would be the first thing. The wife will look down on him, even though the woman was influenced to prioritize a career. Like you said, hey, yeah, I want to go out there and get my bag. And he's in the home taking care of the kids. There's a very high probability. Women have a natural propensity to be repulsed by a man that's not operating in masculinity. You get what I'm saying? So
I don't
in
actually,
some situations, that's fine. And there's exceptions to every rule. In some situations, I'm sure it maybe works. You get some masculine chick that she wants to be out there working, and you get some feminine male and he wants to be in a home with the children and he has low T. Yeah, I'm sure that relationship dynamic works. Kudos to them. Guess what? Exceptions don't make the rule, right? So generally speaking, that wouldn't work. So what would be my general answer to your question? Yeah, I would. If I see that, I'll be like, you're a cuck. What are you doing in the house? You're a loser. You're a dork.
Okay.
I think the issue here is you're prescribing that this is the majority of things and therefore we should encourage it. And all we're saying is we shouldn't necessarily adhere and say this is the only thing you can do. And you kind of gave that away in saying, yeah, there are exceptions. And that's kind of our point, is that there are exceptions to this. I don't think that makes them less of a man. And I don't think we should be shaming people for making a choice, which you yourself agreed can work in certain
generally
places.
The wife would think that he's less of a man.
And if she does, then he's got a problem. But that doesn't mean we should discourage
unless you are his wife.
All right, think that he's less of a man. Oh, wait, you're at home cooking? I go home. Food is already cooked for me, you dork. So generally, guess what? What's naturally going to happen is he's going to be made fun of. That's what's naturally going to happen, right? So promote this. It will happen.
Okay.
It will happen. And
so we're not arguing. Just to be clear, we're not arguing that there's not good. Look, women give birth, right?
Yeah.
Apparently some men do now too, right? But that doesn't mean that a huge vast majority of women are the ones giving birth, right? So we're not saying, well, we need to even this out. Men need to give more birth. We're saying that just because a vast majority of women are going to be giving birth to the next generation of people doesn't mean that prescriptively we should be telling them, hey, this means you have to be a homemaker. Hey, this means you have to do X, Y, Z as a woman, right? We're not saying.
I get what you're
let him
okay,
finish.
go ahead.
Sorry, we're done. Okay, go ahead.
No, I get what you're saying. And the point that I'm making is that people, like you said, in your opening, I want you to think a little bit, right? And I'm not saying this to saying that you're not thinking, but think on a question that I'm asking. I was active listening to you. So in your opening, you said that you want people to have freedom of choice.
Yes.
Right? I believe that too. Freedom of choice. Choose what you want. But guess what? We know that influence is a very powerful force, right? So since influence is a very powerful source, then I think that we should influence people to adhere to gender roles, because we know that leads to higher birth rates. We know that leads to a lot of good things in society. But even though there's always going to be exceptions to the rule, there's always going to be people that don't choose to adhere to gender roles. But guess what? Let's say if we promote some propaganda to not adhere to gender roles, then it's just going to increase the birth rates. It's going to increase the women not having children. It's going to increase women in the workforce and men being docile, like Wick's example of men being in the home working and taking care of the children, and women out there working. It's just going to increase that. That's what I'm saying. The possibility will definitely increase if we push the opposite of gender roles.
We're not saying that we need to push the opposite of gender roles. We're saying we don't need to push gender roles. The things that you're, by the way, the things that you're prescribing that are like
feminism is pushing the opposite of gender roles.
Right? We're talking about, hey, we want more women to have give birth, right? You can do that exclusively of saying, hey, woman, you need to do this or you're a bad person. It's just saying, hey,
I'm so sick of this fucking this debate etiquette where, I do think this is born out of people just fucking learning how to, move through this process by watching endless fucking Destiny streams. But anytime somebody makes an argument, they always start it with, hey, I just want to think about this and that and that. Or it would be good if people did this. Hey, it should be good if you're going to hear it a million times from Soy Pill and from fucking Wick. They'll just be like, don't you think it would be good if we did this and this and this? I mean, what if it was like this? If we said to ourselves, hey, and then blah, 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 blah. I fucking hate that so much, bro. Just admit that you learned that from Destiny, because Destiny does that exact fucking thing. You don't need to fucking say hey every 2 seconds. Maybe that's petty on my part, but it's fucking annoying, man.
We're going to incentivize this because we need replacement rates, and so if you want to do this, you can. This is about the choice. It's not saying, hey, the opposite of gender roles is better. It's saying, hey, there's good things from gender roles, but I think that the negatives that come from that don't need to happen, and we can promote good behaviors exclusive of gender roles. This doesn't mean
I think that men and women should.
Hold on, I wanted to give Cooley the opportunity to respond because he was.
One quick question for you, then, Soy Pill. Then, do you want?
No. You could. That's the point. That's the whole. Yeah.
No, I mean, I kind of misspoke, but all right. So, do you think that we should stop the propaganda and the push towards feminism, or should we, because like you want to stop this gender role and this masculinity and femininity dynamic, right? That's what you want to stop. You say that we don't need to influence the masses towards that. So my question for you is then should we stop feminism then?
It depends on what aspect you mean. It's a really wide topic, and there's probably a lot of stuff that you and I would agree is like not helpful to society. But ultimately, I think the point of feminism in its very most generic gray blobby form is to give women that choice, and I think that's a good thing, that people should be allowed to choose what they want to do. Now, if you're going to talk about like, hey, like should we promote women saying never have kids and go be girl boss? Like, yeah, again, that's promoting the opposite of the gender role. I'm not necessarily saying we do that, but I think feminism in its purest form is probably fine. I don't think that's a terrible thing.
Okay, so should we promote women should be independent and sexual liberation and stuff like that?
I think that we should promote women should have the choice to be independent and have sexual liberation if they want to.
But we already know that they all have a choice. So the thing is, what I'm getting at here, and I want the audience to pay attention, is that he's totally against promoting gender roles and masculinity and femininity, the good things about it, right?
No.
But in regards to feminism, you are.
No, I said we should take the good things from it and promote it in a non-gendered way.
Oh, in a non-gendered way. Oh, so
I'm against exclusively gendering things. So like, name me one thing.
You're against it, man.
Hold on, I did want.
Well, I'm curious, like, because I could change. They could change my mind here. Could you name me like a specific gender role, like a societal expectation of someone that would not be able to apply to both? Because when you say like, oh, give birth, you should have more babies. I don't really see that as a societal pressure insofar as like, yeah, we have to tell women to do this. Women have babies, they will do it. And yeah, if the replacement rate got to like a very, very low, like, hey, this is an existential crisis, I would probably promote some sort of government intervention. Like, look, guys, like in the same way conscription needs to happen to defend our country, woman, you got to have more babies. We're going to all go extinct. Like, I understand that. That's very different from, hey, like men do this, women do this. I think those can be extrapolated to both genders.
All right. First of all,
it's crazy. Like you won't be able to unhear it now. You won't be able to unhear it. He just did the hey thing like fucking 5 or 6 times in a 5 or 6 minute back and forth with these guys.
Bill, we need to get one thing straight, okay? I need you to say women.
I can't. I promise. I fuck this up all the time. Women.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of this one, I think you're trying to evade the whole question about birth rates. You just said that if there was an existential crisis with the birth rate, then you would promote gender roles, right? You would promote that biological.
I would promote women to have more. I would incentivize them, yeah. But I don't think that's a gender role insofar as like the way we know them today. Well, it's funny because, like I said, I brought up Georgia, I brought up Hungary, and they're trying to do things by saying, "Hey, have 5 kids, you'll pay no taxes," or like, I guess maybe the Israel example works. I think that has a lot more to do with they feel like if they don't have enough babies, they will literally not have a country anymore.
Exactly.
And they're that close to it. And I think, yeah, if we got that close to it, maybe we would have to promote that women should have more babies. But again, when I talk about gender roles, I'm not talking about, hey, what is the biological imperative? I kind of said this in my opening to avoid this because I don't think it's nearly as important as most of these other. It's not about avoiding it because I don't think it's like a thing I can defend. It's just, it doesn't matter insofar as, yeah, should we tell women that they need to have kids? I don't think we should, unless it was so existential that we had to. And I just don't think we're there yet. So it's more about the fact that, hey, should women be allowed, like have the choice to go work? It's like, yeah, absolutely. We should say you can choose that if you want. Is it better if women are in the house? Well, if they want to do that, they should be able to. And I don't think we should say you're a bad woman or you're not a real woman if you don't do either of those things. But that's more where I'm coming from.
Let me, Jake, for just a moment. I wanted to throw it back to Wick because he was waiting his turn for a while. I wanted to give him an opportunity, and then back to you, Jake.
A little bit. I will say
that a lot to respond to, but yeah.
Sure.
Yes, you absolutely can. Just let Wick throw.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. I ditched out for a minute, so maybe I missed the answer to this question, right? Simply because my internet just had a hiccup. So if I do, just please repeat it for me. Forgive me for that. But did you ever answer Soy's question about what is a specifically like a masculine trait that only applies to men?
Yeah,
defending the birth one.
Militarily.
Defending the country. There's plenty of if I may respond to that.
Wick.
If I may respond,
if you're going to sit here and argue with me that women can exclusively defend the country and that men can't, that men don't have the imperative to defend the country.
Hold on. Have you ever defended the country? Have you ever served?
Okay, so that means that men can't defend the country.
Have you ever served?
Great argument.
No, I'm just asking, just so I know how much I have to explain.
If I may, Jake, he's not saying that men can't defend the country. He's saying that this is clearly not a gender role that only men can like do.
Absolutely,
this.
I just don't know.
Men don't. I mean, like the percentage of people in the military that are men, or just people in
go
the
ahead,
military.
Rick.
Yeah, well, the reason I'm asking, right, is because I don't know how much I have to explain to you about how like our defense structure works, our defensive industrial base, or anything regarding war or anything like that works. So I need to know how much experience you have with it. Have you ever served in any capacity? No. Okay. So we have a wealth of people in the American military, right, and also in the Israeli military, which you mentioned to somehow support your point that women can't defend the country and things like that. There's this thing called technology, and it works wonders. We have, and you can see this in the Ukraine and Russian war. A lot of the fighting now is done via drones, and sure, it's not exclusively to that, but to act as if women cannot support our defense and serve in the country, and that it is a strictly masculine trait to defend the country is just. Forgive the French here, but it's bullshit. It's bullshit.
Okay. Yeah. What's the death toll? If you look at the death toll of the Russia-Ukraine war, what is it meant to women, Wick?
Do you know?
Yeah.
What is it? Tell me.
Well, you don't. You seem like an expert about it.
I'm just asking you what
like
you think
about
it is.
warfare. So do you know what the death toll is? If you had to guess, what would it be?
I'm sure that more men have died than women because more men serve than women.
What do you think? What do you think roughly? Like if you had to give me a percentage, how many percent?
10 to 1, 5 to 1, something like that.
500.
Yeah, it's at least over 99% men who are dying in warfare. Do you think that's a coincidence, Wick? Do you think that's just because maybe
I already told you it's because most of the people serving on the front line are men.
Are the ones who are conscripted to the front line to defend the country because they're literally fighting with bayonets in some regards, and they're fighting in hand-to-hand combat. You're saying that the warfare is so different. No, it's not. This is like World War I, World War II type warfare that's happening over in Russia, Ukraine at the moment. And there's thousands and thousands of men dying every single day. So you can sit there from your little studio and say that, oh, hypothetically, women could press a button and women could drop a bomb. But that's just not the reality of the way that things are working. And it's the exact same thing in the Israeli-Hamas war.
Well, maybe the women aren't dying because they're
dying.
smart and they're hiding behind the drone control, you know? Like all the stupid
That's probably
men.
right. They're probably just dodging bullets.
It's just silly, right? To think that.
Okay, tell me how it's silly.
Sure, there are women right now in the American military who help pilot drones and things like that, and these are very, very lethal weapon systems, lethal equipment. And while
that's a hell of a username. What's up, K? I'm just gonna call you K. Well, I mean, we have a K. We already have a K, so you're K2. I'm gonna call you K2. If that used these mental gymnastics to focus on restructuring bureaucracy, they might be able to change something instead of get pissed over difference of opinion. Have they already gotten over the abortion topic? No. I don't remember how much I was making dinner when I was listening to this earlier, so I was like in and out of it, but I don't know how much they even they touched on gender or abortion. Maybe they did in terms of the replacement rates conversation. I don't know, but I don't think it's gotten over that yet. But also, welcome in K2. How you doing? I'm just gonna. We already have a K, so I'm gonna call you K2. But welcome in.
yes, there are places where it takes strength. Who do you think would win in a fight? If I gave a woman a gun and you didn't have a gun, and I told you, you guys get to fight, and you had to place money on who's going to win that fight, who would it be?
Yeah, well, it's disanalogous. How about we say this?
Answer my question, please.
This is a fair analogy.
Can you answer my question? I want the audience to know that he cannot answer the question. Just
because
let that be known.
It's a stupid question. If you give a woman a gun, and
you may be a
she's pointing at
stupid
the man,
person,
and the man
but I
has no
promise
gun,
you, it's a very
obviously
intelligent
the woman is going to be able to kill him. But it's disanalogous, Wick, because if you have a Russian man with a gun and a Ukrainian woman with a gun, or let's say we have 20 on each side, 20 men, 20 women, the women are getting smoked every single time.
That's just not true. There's a whole host of factors that would allow women to just entirely smoke that regiment of men. Mostly it would come on to intelligence. Who was able to see the other people?
It's really funny how this is just not happening in reality. This is just a complete figment of your imagination, Wick. This is just not happening in reality. So you can sit here and you can argue all day, we could give the women some special forces.
You just said
why aren't they doing
that 99% of the casualties are men. So that might suggest that the women are dying at a less high rate because they are better at it.
No, because they are not in the military. They are not in the military.
Can I try to refocus?
I'll refocus it a little bit, Wick, because I don't think he's understanding, or maybe he's just being disingenuous. But obviously, there's more men in the military for a reason.
Yes, it's a traditional rule.
Women are in the military in some supportive roles and some of the roles that you stated as well. But
are they talking about women in the military? They're talking about traditional gender roles. Do they have a place in modern society? Low IQ discussion. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't blame anybody if they want to duck out, but I just don't want to fucking really engage with content tonight. I'm here to passively listen to shit and laugh at ridiculous arguments while you guys get frustrated about how bullshit this content is, and I play Fallout 76. That's my Monday night. That's exactly what I plan on doing, and so it's so far so good. You know, I don't blame anybody if they want to duck out because this debate is low IQ or whatever, but I like that it's low IQ because it pisses you guys off, which makes the chat just like way more funny and interesting. So. Is this the MOBA Fallout? MOBA. What is MOBA? I feel like I should know what MOBA means, but I don't know what that means. This is the MMO Fallout 76. Multiplayer. Yeah, exactly. This is the multiplayer one. Yeah, I mean, I just started playing it recently. I got back into a lot of games. A couple weekends ago, I played Fallout 4. Literally from Saturday morning until Sunday night. The only thing I did different in between, other than play Fallout 4, was sleep, eat, and like shower and use the restroom. Other than that, I didn't leave my apartment. I literally just played Fallout 4 the entire time. And then, then the weekend after that, I played Skyrim. Not as much as I played Fallout 4, but I played Skyrim. And but that's all in my living room on my Xbox. But while I'm here, I was like, I gave 76 a chance once, and I didn't get too far into it, but I did remember it being like a little bit fun and definitely very beautiful. It's a beautiful game to look at. They did a great job recreating Appalachia. So I was like, you know what, fuck it. I mean, it's probably just something I can do casually in the background while I piss you guys off with videos you don't want to watch. I want this to get to even lower IQ, so people are like get infinitely more frustrated. Like I said the other day, like I source my entertainment from the chat. I love it when you guys are arguing, when you're frustrated, in a fun way. Obviously, I don't want it to affect you detrimentally, but it is fun to me when you guys are like visibly angry in the chat. I love it. It makes me happy,
It's on a macro level, would you want a lot of women to join? Like his example, 20 women versus 20 men. The men would destroy them.
I would have
not
to...
because like Soy Pills said, let me finish. It's not because like Soy Pills said, well, they could probably destroy the men if they have better training. No, it's from a biological thing, right?
What biological imperative makes them better at shooting?
Incorrect. Biologically, men are better at reflexes. Men are better at eye-hand coordination and a multitude of other things. So biologically,
they're stronger to carry the equipment.
They're stronger to carry the equipment, everything. Biologically, men are just better operators at guns and everything else, bro. Women will get destroyed.
I mean, this is kind of a hypothetical, so I don't really jump in too much further because I do have a question, and this kind of brings this back to this gender roles thing. So I would posit that you would both agree with this, but let me know if you don't. Do you think that men have a duty to defend the household?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
So would you say if the man's at work and someone comes in and the mom is there with the kids, does she have a duty to defend her kids?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yes.
Okay. So would you say that then we could both say, hey, parents should probably defend their children, and we can say that without gendering it, and that's totally a fine statement and takes the positives from both of those gender roles and says, hey, why don't we promote good behavior that's going to make society flourish by saying, be a virtuous person and defend your children?
Hold on a second. Do you believe that a man has a duty to defend his household?
Yeah,
or would you put your wife in front? Okay, so then
Well, again, see how you've like now implicated a situation where, hey, don't you think it's worse if you throw the weaker and less effective person into the fray when you have a dangerous situation? And I've completely not talked about that at all. Like, yeah, I agree. I don't think you should. I also don't think that a child should be on the front line of that and say, hey, I'm going to throw my kid in front of the bullets so I can get a couple extra shots off. But I'm saying that both the man and the woman should be protecting their household to the extent of their abilities. And you don't have to say,
do you guys
hey, if
disagree
you
with
can't
that?
do this, you're a bad man or you're a bad woman.
Hold on a second. So just quickly, you do agree that you just said that women are weaker and less effective?
Yeah, in principle and in general, I don't think in every case, but yeah, in most cases, I would say.
So therefore, it would be
physically, yes.
I mean.
Okay, cool.
But
Well, so
again,
then
if my wife had a gun and I did not,
Yeah.
then the one with the gun is going to be doing the work. You understand, right?
Okay, let's just give the women the guns. I'm sure they'll be.
If they
super
happen to
turned on
have
by
it,
that statement.
again, you're positing
Yeah.
the situation, right? Where like, oh,
Listen,
the
if
man
woman
has
has
to
the
come
gun,
up
she
and
throws the gun to the man.
I guess I don't get to talk today. I guess you guys
I just
get
heard
to
the
interrupt.
correct-
That's a very
I
feminine
wanna- I
trait.
wanna
I just
entire
kind of
chat.
reset the panel, and I want to just throw a funny little joke out there. I think I'm the only one here that actually has served in the military.
I served for 6 years.
Oh, I'm
Yeah, I
sorry,
was a
Mike, I didn't know.
cryptolinguist. That's why I asked, right? That's why I'm bringing this up.
Yeah.
Unlike I guess you got your chatters who are like the Meal Team 6, the people like that, right? But no, I've served alongside many women in the armed services, the Air Force specifically, and they were very
we should
effective.
carry on that line though. Just in terms, so you guys actually agree that women are weaker and less effective than men. That completely
In
makes
general,
our point about the military thing. That you just made our point. You just completely destroyed
what's
your
your
own argument
point?
there.
That all men
Our
should serve in the
point
military?
is that you were saying that women can be as effective at military and that they're dying at lesser rates because they're just so damn good at it.
Well, I was
They're just-
joking.
No, I was
Oh,
memeing on your. Hold on, if I may.
saying.
I was making fun of your point. You understand why I was saying that, right? Because I was making fun of your dumbass point from earlier, where you said 99% of men are dying. It's because yes, you have far more men in the military than you have women. So obviously that's going to be the case. But to act as if that means something in the case of the argument that we're having with gender roles is just not true. Look, I said at the beginning. I said at the beginning. I said it, you can't stop me right there. So I said at the beginning, right? I said at the beginning of this discussion during my opening statement that I think the best person for the job that just so happens to be men in many cases. But when we go into these traditional gender roles and we make them strict and we make them restrictive, what that does is that women who might happen to be better marksmen than everyone else, right, that's around them, which can happen. I'm sure you would agree. Like, it might be rare, but it can happen. When we make these gender roles too restrictive, what we do is we lessen our ability to have the best person for the job in there. And again, while I, on general, might be way more able to carry equipment and hike farther and things like that, if a woman in my squad happens to be a better shot than me, they're going to be taking point because obviously.
So here's what I wanted to say.
Did he freeze?
No, I'm still here.
I'm
very still at times.
How do you think he survived in the military?
It's true. I
thought he froze for a second. But so in regards to this whole point about the military and everything like that, like it was a lot of influence behind getting men to be in the military. This is why men go towards being in the military. If you even look at like, commercials in the 90s, there were so many commercials that was pushing forth a lot of propaganda to get men in the 90s, the 80s, the 50s, all of it. It was
commercials.
A lot of influence. And also the military, they have a big recruiting team to recruit men into the military. So think about if we just took that away. Think about if we took the influence away of the military influencing society to join for their service. If we took that away, there would be less men. There would most likely be less men going into the military. That would conclude to that. Yes, right?
We're not arguing to say we should get rid of military recruitment. We're saying it doesn't make you less of a man if you don't serve in the military. And this kind of goes back. We keep bringing up military. I don't know why. This is such a small minority of the population, let alone men. And to say that it's a male gender role is ridiculous because most men don't embody this role. That's kind of
I got you, but you're missing something because remember my question, which you never answered. My question that you never, no, you didn't answer it. My question that you never answered was when you said that people should have the freedom to choose, right? And then I said, well, influence is one of the most powerful forces out there, right?
Okay.
So should we influence people to adhere to gender roles or should we influence people not to? And
I said no, first of all. Well, let me ask you this. Do you think that telling men to go into the military is
one you said no. To that one you said no. To the other question, my follow-up, well, should we influence the masses towards feminism? You said you couldn't answer the question. You couldn't answer the question. So it seems, stop it, soy pill. Stop it.
Hold
I'll elaborate.
Hold on. David, please finish your statement and then soy pill, you're welcome to respond.
Yeah, so it seems, soy pill and also Wick, it seems that you are fully okay with promoting and influencing the masses towards sexual liberation and some degenerate behavior and away from gender roles.
No, I'm not.
Well, okay,
you didn't ask me.
Let's just say away from gender roles. It seems that you are okay with influencing the masses away from gender roles. That is true, but you have a problem with gender roles. You have this problem. And you even know, y'all both concluded that, well, not pushing society, you do know the positive effects of gender roles. So when people adhere to gender roles, you do know the positive effects. So if we know that influence is the most powerful force, well, shouldn't we want to influence the masses towards something that we know brings about a positive result rather than a negative result? We know the negative results of feminism, but you didn't. You said, oh, well, no, I think that feminism is cool. It's a good thing.
No, hold on. So again, let me respond real quick and then you can jump in because this is me not answering the question.
I think we might have different answers, by the way.
And I think actually we would disagree on this week. So go ahead, feel free to contradict me. I'm not saying we should promote feminism and we shouldn't promote traditional gender roles. I, again, spoke from a very vague term of, hey, we should promote good behaviors, and we're probably going to disagree on which those behaviors are. I'm saying those good behaviors don't need to be gendered. And I'm saying that, yeah, if you're promoting feminism, you're probably going to be promoting potentially some harmful behaviors. That doesn't mean we should promote feminism. The only thing I said was, well, because feminism is such a encompassing term, if we're just going off the definition of should people be able to choose, should women have more choice in society, then yeah, I guess I'm promoting choice and you're promoting no. I think that men and women should be in this very strict kind of lane, and that's just what I want to move away from. I think that people should be able to choose what they want to choose. If that's what feminism is, then sure, but you're kind of promoting it as this like dichotomy of it's the opposite of gender roles, which to a degree it is if you think women traditionally shouldn't have more choice. But
it is the opposite of gender roles. Feminism, I mean, we all have a clear, I'm not sure what your definition of feminism is, but let's just, my definition would be that it's the move towards egalitarianism where men and women are equal. And you concluded with your own statement where Jake checked you on, that women are weaker than men. So they're not equal to a man. You actually,
if I may, women are going to become the same strength.
Hold on.
You do not want to stop the promotion of feminism, but you want to stop the promotion of gender roles. It doesn't make any sense where you know yourself that feminism is rooted into nonsense. It's not even rooted into reality. You know that men are stronger than women. Look at you. You got a little tight shirt on with your muscles out. You're probably going to the gym. So you adhere to some reality.
Again, real quick, I have to keep responding because I keep saying feminism is just. I'm just saying feminism is women having the ability to choose.
I will say though, for as much as I probably don't agree with anything this guy's saying, I think soy pill is a fucking. That's a pretty fucking Chad name to have. Soy pill. That's pretty cool.
If you want to make a more specific definition, we can get into the minutia of whether or not I agree with, hey, should we promote XYZ behavior? I just think people should be able to choose what they want. And if that's what feminism is, then I'm fine with that.
So everything is choice to you, soy pill?
What do you mean? No, you asked me to define feminism. So I'm saying in the most vague terms.
But everything is choice to you. That's what I'm saying. So you're saying feminism is freedom to choose. Gender roles is freedom to choose. Like everything is freedom.
Hold on. If I may.
Go ahead, Wick.
I just want to jump in here. Cooley, do you not think, is that your name, Cooley? Am I getting that right? I don't want to. get it
Yes.
wrong. Okay.
You got it correct.
Do you not think, or do you think that women should not be able to choose what they do in their life?
That isn't what I said.
I'm asked. That's why I'm asking. I'm asking so I can know your answer.
I've already, so you wasn't active listening. I already answered the question, and I agreed with Soypa. I said, well, yeah, I do think people should have freedom of choice. But I said that
you went on a monologue about how
No,
against soy, about how is choice everything to you? And I guess to ask you that question, right? When is your line where choice is not the issue? When do women not get to choose for themselves, or men for that matter?
Speaking about influence,
not get to
not
choose.
choice.
I'm speaking about influence. I'm saying that influence is a huge predictor on what someone is going to choose.
Possibly
influence creates. Stop it. Influence creates thinking. Thinking creates behavior.
Do you think that influence is a form of control?
Influence can be used as a form of control.
Okay, I think that people have the ability to break away from their influence. There's plenty of influences that I have felt in my life where I've decided, you know what, even though I'm being influenced to do a certain thing, I am a free agent and capable of free choice, and I'm able to not succumb to that influence and do other things, right? So the reason I'm advocating here tonight against this enforcement of strict traditional gender roles is because I think that influencing that society, society, community, etc., trying to influence people in these strict gender roles does a lot of harm to people because it restricts their choice. As you've admitted right here, it is a form of control. And I think that we should not, neither society nor the government should be in the business of trying to control its citizens to that degree. And
yeah, what's up, Sparkle? How you doing? Oh God, Wick. Yeah, exactly. Welcome in. His name's cool. Yeah, so he's the guy that does the No Fugazi podcast, which is just like another, like, fresh and fit kind of knockoff kind of thing. But yeah, welcome in, Sparkle.
I think that if a woman wants to go out and enter the workforce, she should be allowed to do so and not looked down upon for doing so. And if a man wants to be a stay-at-home dad and wants his wife to go out and work, that should be their choice. Unless you're married to the guy, it shouldn't be your decision whatsoever.
Can I just
would you stop the influence of feminism? Real quick, would you stop the influence of feminism?
I think that has been pernicious in many ways too. Yes.
You would.
Yes.
Go ahead, Jake.
Yep. Cheers, man. So you said that the government shouldn't be. How did you feel about the mask mandates?
How did I feel about the mask mandates? Do you think those were gendered? Yeah. I think that the government has a duty to protect its citizens. I didn't like the mandates. I don't like mandates in general. I didn't like the COVID lockdowns. I didn't like the mandate vaccines, anything like that. But I don't think that these are the similar thing to society influencing its citizens to perform a certain
line of questioning, and you'll be able to understand. So did you think that it was good that people were wearing masks?
Was it good? I think it was neutral. I didn't see it.
Okay. Did you think that it was good that people were getting the vax?
I think that it was neutral, neither good nor evil.
Okay. Do you think it's good that we don't? Do you think that it would be good if we don't have domestic violence?
Do I think it would be good to not have domestic violence? Sure.
Yeah. So do you think that the government should be promoting people not to engage in domestic violence?
Yes, I think there should be laws against domestic violence. I agree.
Okay. So you're saying that the government should. So you're saying that the government should promote certain behaviors?
Yes, but not gender roles.
Why? Why should they do that? Why should you? But you made a sweeping statement before. You said the government should not be influencing people to do this. Why? Why should they influence people to do that?
If you listen to my entire statement, I said the government should not be influencing or controlling its citizens in regards to gender roles and their choices of how to live their lives and what to do. Now, obviously, there are some basic restrictions on this. I can't go out and punch someone in the face. I think it should be against the law for me to do so. I shouldn't be able to go out and choose to steal someone's stuff because it negatively impacts others. But when it comes to being a parent, right, or a stay-at-home dad, or a mom who works and things like that, I don't think that these have enough negative impacts on society to warrant the government coming in and mandating it. Do you think they should be mandated? Do you think that the government should come in and place restrictions on men staying at home instead of being in the workforce?
Well, first of all, I just want to point out that that's not what you said before. What you said before is that the government should not be in the business of influencing people like we're saying. We are saying the opposite thing. We are saying that there should be some sort of societal influence and governmental influence on good behaviors. I mean, you can try and just throw out ad hominems if you want there, but
you can try to pronounce it.
When you take your position here, this is how people end up with driving their white van and getting caught on Chris Hansen's To Catch a Predator. When you take your exact position here,
you know a lot.
This is how men end up in those positions. So, anyways,
wait, can you elaborate on that?
In regards to well, this is weak men who don't have.
No, how did you get caught by Chris Hansen?
Who don't have an imperative.
No, tell us how you got caught by Chris Hansen.
I was actually going to ask you the very same thing because I mean, you look awfully familiar.
All right,
I thought you looked really familiar.
I would be interested with an elaboration on how it gets from point A to point B. I think Soy was asking for it.
Yeah, I was asking,
you want to elaborate.
How does lack of gender roles lead to white vans kidnapping children and?
Well, I mean, look. If you deprive men of purpose and if you deprive men of mission and the ability to be able to have a family and to be able to pursue legacy, this is when men get depressed and when men basically fall off the rails. So whenever I see these guys who end up in these really terrible situations like Wick, where he ends up on Chris Hansen's To Catch a Predator, I always think that there's just a distinct lack of purpose there, and that comes from performing
Talk a lot
your
about
own
kids,
masculine
man.
duty.
That's weird.
Yeah. So
Okay, let's not go down that road.
He just hold on. He just talked about how I was going on Chris Hansen.
I will say,
if he can't handle this,
you don't have to defend.
If he can't handle this,
he
he shouldn't have brought it
between
up.
both of you. It's fair across the board. That piece is done in terms of talking about men and
Your
children
house, your
in that
rules.
aspect.
Look, my issue is
you
this
can
idea that this
still
is a.
Sorry, you can still inquire, but we're gonna keep the insults of the PDF stuff to a minimum now.
Right. So my issue is, again, you keep burying this argument that we've never made that, oh, if we don't enforce specific gender roles, then somehow men will lose purpose and they'll all start driving these white vans around. And we're not saying that you can't be in a gender role. We're saying that the influence, again, kind of to bring it back to Cooley, and I actually do acknowledge Cooley, I guess I wasn't really addressing the whole idea of what this influence is doing and where this influence should be. And what we're saying, just to be clear, is that the influence of traditional gender roles is what's causing the harm. And we can do that influence of promoting what you probably would agree is the good behavior. Like, hey, men, you need purpose. Hey, men, you need to go out and be productive. Hey, woman, you need to have purpose as well. We're saying we can do this agendered. That's it. We're not saying, oh, you can't tell people that if they want to go in the home, that they shouldn't be able to go be productive. We should deprive them of their purpose. It's just saying, let's make sure everyone has these choices. And what we influence is behaviors that most of society could probably agree is good, right? Hey, everyone should go out and get a job and have some sort of purpose. I think we could all agree. Yeah, you shouldn't be sitting inside jerking off playing video games all day and just like deprive yourself of any purpose. This is not necessarily gendered language, and we're just trying to move away from it, because if you keep it gendered, then what you're doing is saying, well, anyone who can't embody this specific role of what I have defined a man or woman to be is somehow less of a human being. And that is going to cause what you're talking about, which is these like depressed, weak men potentially going into.
I would suspect that weakening gender roles leads to a higher average parental age for births and high paternal age associated with increased rates of PDF, I suspect as a function of mutational load via the accumulation of germline mutations. I don't know what the fuck that. I don't know if that's like unironic or if that's like some I don't know. I have no clue. Anybody? You know what? I'll tell you what. Conrad, what do you think about what Shang just said there? How do you feel about the accumulation of germline mutations? What's going on with that?
Bad places, and the same for the woman. And I think, as I stated at the beginning, this gender role and what men embody in it is so outdated that men now are a lot depressed on a.
So I'm gonna grab another beer. I'll be right back.
On a whole, because they do what the society expects them to, and it's not paying off for them because it's not enough. We have to promote more behaviors that are traditionally with women.
And if I may just piggyback off that just very briefly, right? It's this idea that masculinity. One of the things that I have a problem with this conversation is I don't believe that either of you, Jake or Cooley, really know what it is to be a man. I really don't. Let me ask you this question. Do you think that we should be promoting people like Andrew Tate? Answer. Easy answer.
You go for it, Cooley.
Yeah, you said promoting people like Andrew Tate.
Yes.
I mean,
is Andrew Tate a good example of masculinity?
Well, like, should the president like invite him into the White House and shake his hand and say, "Hey, you're cool"?
I mean, the president. Well, Obama and Biden, they definitely shook a lot of feminist hands. So yeah, for sure, they can shake Andrew Tate's hand.
No, I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about shaking hands. Do you think that Andrew Tate is a good example of masculinity?
For sure. There's many examples that he embodies that's good masculinity. I don't believe in the term of toxic masculinity. But real quick,
Bro,
because I see you trying to
traffics women and rapes them.
Yeah, no, he hasn't been convicted of anything. You're a liar. So real quick, question for you, Soy Pill, because you were speaking about the purpose of men and women. Pretty much you're saying that, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying that, well, we shouldn't gender things. That's my whole thing. Your whole thing, the Soy Pill, is we shouldn't gender things. We should say, hey, here's a purpose for everyone. Here's a purpose for these people. But my question for you is, if you don't gender it, then how can someone see themselves in it?
I don't know. Have you never seen a woman do anything that you thought was like commendable in any way? Like, can you only ever see commendable behavior in people that look and sound like you? It's kind of an interesting question. I think it's very easy to see someone and say, "Hey, I respect that person regardless of their gender, and I want to embody their behavior."
That's not what I'm
Well, you
saying.
said, how do people see themselves in it, right? Like if I say, "Hey, people should go have purpose in life. You should work hard. You should be fastidious, and you should bring home bacon." And whether or not I show you an example of a woman or a man doing that, I think is completely irrelevant to whether or not I've done a good job of promoting that.
Soy Pill. Yeah. If I say, listen, your mom tells you, "Hey, Soy Pill, I want you to go to the store and get some." Okay, great. She says, "Hey, I want you to go to the store and get some food," but she doesn't tell you specifically what to get.
Okay.
And you bring back the wrong stuff.
This is
right?
a weird
Well,
analogy.
stop
I
it.
Understand
No,
the
stop
problem
it.
here.
Yeah, no,
but, like,
it is a problem here. Let me finish it. She tells you, hey, soy pill, go to the store and get me some food.
Get some
You
stuff,
go to the store and bring back some food. She said, this is the wrong food. Well, you didn't tell me what type of food you want me to get. So then you
Right.
go back to the store. It takes you about 10 tries to go to the store. Then you finally bring back the right stuff. But if your mom would have said, bring back the chicken because we need that for the protein. Bring back some blueberries because you need that for your brain to operate good. She tells you specifically what type of foods to bring back so she can cook and they can nourish your body.
And did you notice like none of those instructions, no matter how specific they were, had to do with whether or not I had a penis or a vagina? And you could just
stop it. If I tell you, right? If I'm speaking to someone, and the analogy I'm making is this: hey, you should be protectors. You should be providers. You should have emotional control. You should love your wife.
Women shouldn't have these things? I'm curious. Do you think that women shouldn't have these things?
Yeah, should women have more emotional control? I think they should.
I didn't even finish. You guys cut me off.
Well, it's because every good thing you're about to say, regardless of what it is, I think can be applied to both things. Unless you're talking about biological imperative.
Yeah, I didn't even finish. Yeah. So I know that you look at these things as being gender neutral roles, right? But they're not exact.
Mutational load. Oh, 1 second. Mutational just refers to the degree to which there exist deleterious mutations in the genome of an organism, and germline mutations mean mutations in reproductive cells, as in sperm cells. Okay. Interesting. So you can take a lot of that like super sciencey biological stuff, and then also make inferences about gender because of it. Oh, you're not making inferences about gender. You're making inferences about what weakening gender roles leads to. Okay. Gotcha. I mean, I still kind of barely understand it, but I understand it a little bit more now. All right, let's keep going.
Exactly gender neutral roles. So like I said before in my opening, men have a natural propensity and women have a natural propensity to be attracted and repulsed by certain things in the opposite sex. Attraction isn't symmetrical, it's asymmetrical. So like you're attracted to certain characteristic traits in a woman, and she's not attracted to those same characteristic traits in you. That's just life. Magnets attract, opposites attract, right? So what I'm saying is there's certain things that men need to embody as a man, and he needs to be told specifically by his father, you should embody these. So then he can go out there and embody them and find them. If you just don't tell him anything, it's like the analogy I'm saying. He's just going to the grocery store and getting the wrong food, embodying the wrong behaviors, maybe embodying all these feminine type of characteristic traits, which women are not attracted to. So then this man grows up and he's involuntary celibate. He can't mate with a chick because he got all these feminine characteristic traits because he didn't have a father there to tell him, hey, I need you to identify with this. You need to embody this. So we need to gender things so people can see themselves in it.
Okay, I see
That's
my
my
point.
point.
Saying. I have a lot of qualms with it. Like, first of all,
I don't. Well,
obviously,
please help me because I'm lost, man. Maybe
Well,
give
so
me
what
a
I'm trying to say is, look, there's a
TJ.
biological imperative of attraction, and in general, because there are traditionally masculine things that women are. Tell me if I'm wrong, by the way, Cooley. Because there are things that are traditionally embodied by men, and most women find these things attractive. Therefore, we should promote that behavior because if not, you're going to have a society of people who will never be able to find a mate. Everyone's going to be despondent, and nothing will ever.
Sure, I think that promoting Andrew Tate as masculine is going to drive birth rates off a cliff. It's just going to no one should listen to either of these clowns ever again.
To you, man. Y'all
They're
on the
just
same
crazy.
team. He was asking.
I thought this was going to be an interesting discussion, but it turns out that you guys are promoting Andrew Tate, and I'm like, okay, well, you don't understand what masculinity is on the basic
Bro, what
level.
do you promote, Barney? Let me ask you, what do you promote, Barney?
What I promote is freedom of choice. What I promote is love of country, patriotism. What I promote, sir, is actual masculinity, right? So maybe sit down and learn from a man. I'm sorry that your dad didn't teach you these things.
I'd like to take it back to Soy because I don't think you were
What's Matt? Real quick, please,
hold on,
I want to just ask him.
Because Soy was interrupted, and then the two of you can do all of this.
But he was interrupted by his own teammate.
I understand.
So let me answer his teammate. Let me reply back.
Wait, I don't want to be cut. I want to interrupt my interruption. All right, can I do that?
Yeah, go ahead, Soy.
David, please allow Soy to finish his thought.
So this idea that men need to be this very specific masculine role because as a society, like most women are attracted to this thing, and this things otherwise things won't progress. Is that kind of was I accurate in determining that was kind of what your argument was, that if we don't embody these things, society as a whole collapses because of the natural things that women are attracted to?
I'm not saying as a whole. What I'm saying is there's always exceptions to every rule, right? So even if people,
right?
For majority, yes. So
Right.
even if we push a whole lot of propaganda, the crazy thing is biology and nature always wins. You can try to nurture society and to do some nonsense to go against their biological proclivities. You can try to nurture that, but nature in due time will win.
So
right?
Why are you worried about promoting anything if nature's going to win, right?
Well, guess what? That could take some years from now. I want my children. Do you guys have kids? Probably don't have kids. Probably never planted your seed in anything. And then you got Wick over here talking about, you're not even a man. You're not even masculine. I got multiple kids, been planting my seed all the time.
Yeah.
So anyways.
Do you think that makes you a man?
Okay.
It's a simple question.
Can I ask?
Do you think that makes you a man to just impregnate random women?
Who said random? What makes you a man, Wick TV? How do you know you're a man?
So
how do you know that you're a man?
So am I a man if I impregnate your partner?
How do you know that you're a man?
I think one of the and I do appreciate this question in all honesty, because I think we do need to talk about what masculinity actually is, right? I think masculinity is self-control, responsibility, right? And that's what I think that a lot of forgive me for saying this, but your side lacks, is responsibility. Taking responsibility for one's own place in the world. It's not the evil woke or the evil feminism that is causing you problems. It's your choices, right? Take some responsibility, man up, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, and recognize that you will have to adjust to the world around you, right? You will have to adjust to how the world works and operate within there. I think men should be protectors and providers, but so should women in their spheres as well. I think that these are good traits that I want both my daughters to learn and my sons, my nieces and my nephews, my women friends and my male friends. I want them all to embody these traits, because I think it's important. When I think of manhood, I think that the biggest word that comes to mind is responsibility. And that's what I think that we need to be teaching, not gender roles or anything like that. It's, hey, be a responsible person, a responsible adult. Take responsibility for your actions. Take responsibility for your choices. And if if you're struggling, figure out why and fix it.
Hey, Wick, I actually agree with you, but I do think that you need to stop being responsible to all them Twinkies and hit the gym, because you saying something, but you're not practicing what you're saying. We can see it. We can see that you are not practicing what you're saying.
Critique my physique next. Okay, I guess not. Cooley, could you point me to something that was what you would consider a promotion of a masculine trait that is exclusive or not exclusive, that is not exclusive to the current time period we live in? So something you're like, oh, well, women are attracted to XYZ thing. I think if you look at a lot of the things that society today expects of men, I mean, now everyone's got like broccoli hair and skinny jeans. You probably wouldn't find that particularly masculine, but a lot of women are into that stuff. A lot of women are into these like girly men K-pop things. And you look across like all these societies, all these different times in history, and a lot of this, like what is masculine has changed all the time. I think the only like really through line is that men biologically are the ones who are going to give the sperm, and women biologically are the ones who are going to receive the seed. And while you might have those biological influences kind of pushing people in different directions, gender-wise, of like, oh, in the BC times we had hunter-gatherers because women weren't as strong. I think today, and you kind of mentioned this in your opening, today we do have all this technology. Today we do live in a modern society, and today we don't need those gender roles the same way we used to. That's kind of our whole point. So could you point to like a specific thing like that men need to embody that otherwise women won't like them?
Yeah, I think that there's a bunch of them. If you're going to be a broccoli-haired soy boy or whatever, then you're just not going to do very well with women. And oftentimes when you look at this whole K-pop phenomenon, the one thing that they all have in common is that these K-pop guys have a very high social status. So that is what the women are looking at in those regards. If you get some random, broke, broccoli-haired soy boy with skinny jeans, he's just not going to do well with women. And that's just not borne out by reality. But if he's a part of a boy band that's performing in front of 100,000 people, then yeah, women look at social status. And the reason why they look at social status is because those men are able to provide. And those men are guys who other people look up to. And women are inherently attracted to that feature. And those men have influence. And women are very attracted to men who have influence. So to say that that there is no real sort of like through line or commonality between what women are attracted to in regards to masculinity, that's just bullshit. Women,
I can testify. I can testify if I may just
hold on a second. Women are attracted to good physiques with men. Women are not attracted to guys who look like Teletubbies. Okay, women are attracted to men who have earning potential. They're attracted to high status males. They're attracted to men who have some sort of a social standing.
Why do poor people have more kids?
And this is to the audience. If you want women, you don't have to be a K-pop star. But being good at music, and I can testify to this, really helps. Just have a skill, right?
Well,
if you're good at guitar, if you're good at drums, right? Don't worry, right? You'll get yours. I'll save a few for you, okay? But look, there will all be of age, though, so just letting you know.
Hey,
but real quick. But like this idea that you need like status and things like that. Status is absolutely something that people are attracted to. But that's not just something only women are attracted to. Men are attracted to status as well. And again, like this idea that you have to be rich and things like that. All these help. But have a skill. Have a
men are not attracted to status, man.
What was the question?
Hey, Wick. So the same question that the soy pill asked us. What would you do to attract a woman? You said music. Other than music. What would you do to
attract
music?
Music? Well, it depends on the woman, right? I'd find out what they find attractive, and then I'd do that.
Generally speaking, how do
Ritual
you
mating dance is typically involved at some point.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like if you're gonna unironically, learn to dance. You go to you learn some swing dancing, things like that. You go to a ballroom dancing place. Man, oh man, women love dancing. Yeah.
So women love dancing and music.
Women love dancing and what? Do you not think they do? If a man can dance, do you not think women find that attractive? They absolutely do.
No, I want to hear Wick keep on spitting game.
Wick.
Wick, spit game. Tell us.
Look, you
Give
can
us the
subscribe. You can
approach
subscribe
a
to my
woman,
podcast. You know, you ain't getting the milk for free.
Look at
buddy.
status, okay? He's got this big
You ain't getting the milk
podcast
for
with
free.
people on.
You got to pay me
It's
if
a
you want me
side-eye.
to help you out, and I can help you out. I understand both of you struggle, right? But you can help. I can
No,
help you out.
Wick, I don't think that any woman on this planet would choose to lay down with you and allow her to pregnate you.
I mean, you don't think in general, so
I
that's
don't
okay.
think that. I truly don't think that. I think that you don't have the ability. So if you think about it, since the beginning of time, about 90% of women procreated, about 40% of men procreated. So there was a lot of men that didn't procreate at all. Wick, I think that you're going to be one of them.
Well, you can think that.
I truly think it. Please let me know, what would you do and what would you say to court a woman? Because we're speaking about.
We had a whole conversation about that, brother.
And you said music and chicks. So look, if you see a woman, real quick.
Okay, I'm gonna let this play out for just a couple more minutes
Okay,
on
a question?
dancing and spitting game, and then we can
Tell you
get
what,
into this.
Cooley, you pretend.
So Wick, stop.
Yeah,
Question
would you
to you.
approach them
Here's
in
my
the gym?
here's my question.
Okay, ask your
I'm gonna
question.
give you the scenario and
gonna
tell
pretend to
me
be the woman?
what would you do? No. I'm gonna give you a scenario and tell me what will you do to get the woman's number. And then get the first date. So you meet the woman at I'm gonna make it simple for you. Starbucks. What are you saying to this chick to bag her number and then to take her out on a date? Because we need to make sure you procreate. Matter of fact, I don't even let me stop. No, I'm gonna say it. I don't even think people like you should procreate, but I'm gonna still try to help you out to procreate. So go ahead. Let me know how you're gonna get a chick.
Well, I'm. Thank you for thinking about my procreation. That's a little weird, man, but okay.
No,
if
it's
that's
not
what you
weird.
want
We're
to
talking
do,
about
right?
gender roles.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Look, this is the problem with these questions, right? Like, you have to be in the moment. You have to actually be talking to a woman. And forgive me, but I have trouble looking at you and then trying to spit game because I'm just not attracted to you, brother. I'm sorry.
No, you being weird now, bro. This is how
You're the one that made this weird. You just sat there and you said, "Oh, I want you to give me your top tips on picking up women at Starbucks." That's weird.
Man.
That's weird.
But the ironic thing is here, we're speaking about gender roles, and before a nation starts, a relationship needs to start. So yeah, we can speak about it from the individual level of gender roles, and we can speak about it on the societal level of gender roles, right? So this is important in this debate. I need to know, and I'm sure the chat wants to know too. If you are so hyped up on we should abolish gender roles, tell me how you would pick up a chick.
I don't think we should
Do you even have
abolish
the ability
gender
to
roles.
get
I don't think that the government or society should
Raging
promote
Tomato
them.
has officially turned into a speed dating show. I will have 7 lovely ladies prepped backstage.
We
for
can do that. Hold on.
the rest
Actually,
of the
Cooley,
game.
if at some point you want, we can make a contest of this. We'll make a game. We'll monetize this shit, okay? We can bring some women on, have a dating show, and see who they choose.
Oh, no.
You must hate your
Money where your
money.
mouth is, brother. Come on.
Yeah,
You
I'll
think you can
definitely
pick
put
up
a lot
more
of
women than
money
me?
on
Let's do it. Let's make it a show sometime. Come on, Cooley. You scared?
Okay, can I go back to the question I asked Cooley, which I promise you was not how do you pick up chicks? It was what was the traditional masculine role that you should tell someone to embody in order for society to progress that is somehow exclusive to this time, or that is not exclusive to this time, that has kind of been a perpetual thing throughout all of history?
Yeah, I mean, Jake answered it, but yeah, you should tell a man to embody certain characteristic traits, like to be decisive. That's a masculine trait. Women are indecisive. They don't know what they want to eat, so a man should be decisive. You should also tell a man to be dominant to an extent. You should tell him to have integrity.
But can I ask a question? Because I want to go through some of these one at a time. Like, do you think in the cavemen they were like saber-tooth or mammoth and like the woman couldn't decide, or do you think they just kind of got what they needed because it was like a biological imperative to survive and eat? Like, do you think that those roles existed back then? The idea that they should be decisive?
Decisiveness, that
your example is women can't decide what to eat, and that's why they're naturally like indecisive.
Decisiveness is a huge thing that back in the saber-tooth tiger days and caveman days they needed to have.
You think women shouldn't be encouraged to be decisive?
I'm not saying that women shouldn't be encouraged to be decisive. Women are naturally not decisive. That's the difference. You get what I'm saying? Men are more decisive than women. Say that again.
Do you think women are indecisive because of gender roles, or do you think it's like purely biological? If we didn't have any society,
no. If we're comparing the two, if we're comparing the two, and I think that men should strive to be in a leadership position. So a leader should be decisive. A leader should be able to make a decision, a quick decision too. Sometimes at the snap of a finger, depending on if danger happens and stuff like that. So if you're going back to saber-tooth tiger days, caveman days, yeah, the man would need to be decisive to make a quick decision to save his children and his family. Yes.
And do you think women shouldn't be decisive of when to run and when to hide when the saber-tooth tiger is attacking them? This is again every single good thing you're saying. Women should be as well, right? Like, which of these things are exclusively men? That's what I
Nobody's
asked. It was an exclusively male trait.
I was listing them.
Yeah, you're looking.
No one's speaking in monoliths. Like you're trying to
Well,
act
then we
like
agree,
it's just
because
that
I
men
think
just
as
purely
a monolith,
100%.
one at a
No,
time,
hold on a second. You've been speaking in monoliths, and he's been speaking in monoliths, and he's been saying that, well, this is just something that is just completely. We're not saying that it's completely exclusive, but what we're saying is that outliers don't make the rule. We've actually made that distinction many times during this debate. So when you're talking about this, you yourself admitted before that women are weaker and less effective than men. So if women are by and large weaker and less effective than men, then that burden is generally speaking going to fall upon the man. And it should be good that men are able to actually take that burden and are actually able to run with it. And the burden of being able to protect your family. So if there is an intruder, the man should be able to go and sort out
how
the
often do you
intruder.
think
Just like back in the day, if there was a saber-toothed tiger, bro's going to pick up his spear and he's going to try and fight the saber-toothed tiger while the woman runs away if she has to. This is just a commonality throughout history. Men have to harness that ability. Sure, if there isn't a man around and the woman is just there with the children, like the home invader situation, then sure, the woman will be responsible for protecting the children. But in an ideal sense, we don't want that situation. We want the man
ideally, like
to be
we
the
said, we want
protector,
the
and
best
so do you.
person
So I don't
doing
really
the
get
thing
your
that they're
argument.
the best at, right?
Yeah.
Right. So we can say that everyone should protect their children. And hey, if you're the strongest person in the room, then you should be the one doing it. And when you say I'm the one speaking of monoliths, this entire time you guys have been saying women like this, men like this. And it's like, that's the monolith, right? I'm saying that there are exceptions.
We're speaking in generalities. You're the one
who's
who's speaking in generalities.
And I'm saying that generally you don't have to say all of these things are prescriptive to all of these people and that people should have the freedom to choose what they want. And we don't need to promote them and say, hey, if you don't do this specific thing, you're a bad man. If a guy, I think if both of you would agree, right? If a guy doesn't protect his family, he's like a bad person, right? He's a coward. He's just not a good person, right? And if a woman did the same thing, she's probably also a coward, right? Now, you can say he has more of a responsibility because he would, with great power, right? He would be better at it. But we're saying that you shouldn't promote specifically, hey, only men should do this and only women should do this. That's all I'm saying. And if you agree, if you agree it's not a monolith, then we actually agree in this debate.
It's just a contradiction because you have yourself said that men are more effective, and if men are more effective, and if that burden is generally speaking going to fall upon the man, and you yourself just said that they're cowards and they're pussies if they don't do it, which is true, then we should be encouraging men to be able to shoulder that burden and do it the most effective way possible. So if that situation does arise, then the man can handle that situation. So yes, we should be encouraging men to be able to handle that situation. We're not speaking in a monolith, we're speaking in a generality. We understand that Game of Thrones lady does exist out there. There's probably some big old Russian woman who's 7 foot tall and she married a hobbit because that just is what she's into, and she's trained with firearms and she's trained with swords and she's an absolute killer and her husband's not. That probably exists in the far reaches of Russia somewhere. I understand. But generally speaking, the societal burden falls upon men, and you see this with the death rate in war. This is played out in material reality.
Why do you bring up war when it's such a small minority of men? This isn't a man
role. Because it's the most pertinent example of what we're talking about. It's the fact that men actually do shoulder that burden, and they always have throughout history. So you can try.
Hold on. Let Jake finish, Soy, and then,
I would
and then
appreciate
you can
that.
respond.
He's doing his little show
Yeah.
here.
We do need to land the plane. We do need to land the plane.
You have prattled so many times throughout this debate where we've just let you go on for minutes and minutes, and you switch from topic to topic to topic.
Replying to it.
So relax. So yeah, what we're saying here is that it's actually just rather simple. What we're talking about is borne out in material reality. We see this every single day because there are wars happening around the world where men are dying, and it is men who are being conscripted. We see this throughout history. There has never been an entire army of women. Men have always fought the battles. We have always been burdened by this, and we understand that if our country was to go to war tomorrow, you guys would probably also have to face conscription, just as they did in Vietnam. If there was a big war tomorrow, you guys would have your name in the ballot, and it wouldn't be women, it would be men. So men have to shoulder that as a collective, and this is borne out in reality. And we're not talking monoliths, we're speaking generalities.
Can I speak? Okay, so look, would you say that being a Navy SEAL is like a male gender role?
Yes.
Why?
How many Navy SEALs are women?
As far as I know, 0. There might be like some small exception.
Okay, so there you go.
When 7 times 10 to the -4% of men are Navy SEALs, this is somehow a gender role for the whole gender, or is it, hey, exclusively men can be this very specific subset of this special agency, but most men don't do this. Just like most men don't join the military, most men don't fight in wars. Men do fight in wars, and in some places they exclusively fight. But this idea that this is a male gender role is just ridiculous, because either you don't understand what I'm saying when I say gender role, or you have some conception that every male has to go join the military, which is not the case. Conscription exists, but they're not conscripting 170 million men. This is so stupid. Obviously this is not a male gender role. Most men don't fight. Most men aren't in the Navy SEAls. A male gender role is, hey, what does society expect a man to do? And it's not join the Navy SEAls.
And let's talk about reality for a minute, because if we talk about reality,
hold on a second. I have to respond to that. You could not have brought up a worse point. There are precisely 0 female Navy SEAls out there. And do you know why that is? Is because biologically they cannot pass the test. That is something that is exclusive to males.
Can you pass the test?
I'd like to turn it back to.
It doesn't matter.
It's almost like you're not less of a man for not being able to be a Navy SEAL. And like that, calling that a gender role is a complete obfuscation of what a gender role is. And just because something is an exclusively male thing does not mean that it is a gender role. It means that only men can meet the criteria because it's a merit-based society and it's a merit-based
It's hard to
criteria for
believe
being
how much you
physical.
actually contradict yourself in one statement.
Do you not understand? Okay, what do you think a gender role is?
No, I'd like to turn it
No,
to
please.
Wick. He
This
was
is like the
waiting.
crux of the debate. He clearly doesn't understand my definition. Maybe that's on me, but he thinks
Wick,
the
did
gender
you have
role is something
something
that
to add?
2,000 people do. So what the fuck is he
Go,
talking about?
hold on. Go ahead, Wick. Add in, and then we can let you.
I understand, but like, let's talk about reality for a minute, right? Because I don't think your side is engaging with reality and the reality that I see play out every day, right? When we talk about like which has the burden to protect the home, I think that men have a duty to, and responsibility to protect their family, but women also have a duty and responsibility to protect their family. And I think that if you are being invaded, right, if your home is under attack, then I think that the most successful households are the ones that work together, hand in hand, men and women working together to fight off the intruder, more than just a single man saying, women, go hide in the closet while I do my man stuff, because obviously two is better than one in this case. Like, look, when we talk about reality, we got to utilize all of our talents, all of our abilities, all of our individual traits to help the whole. And I think that, again, focusing on these gender roles and trying to strictly enforce them or heavily influence the society to push people into these roles, again, as I said at the beginning, stymies our ability to be productive. It makes us worse off. And we can see this in reality because the countries that have moved away from the more strict adherence to gender roles have outperformed by leaps and bounds the countries that have gone more strictly into the patriarchies and things like that. When you look at like the Middle East, for example, as most of those countries, right, have gone in very strict adherence to gender roles, and they're doing far, far worse than the more Western egalitarian countries. So when we look at what works, let's deal with reality here, okay? What reality has told us over and over again in the last 50 years is that the Western world is winning. Egalitarianism is winning. Your ideology or whatever it is that you preach is simply ineffective.
Look, Wick, I think that one thing that we can definitely ascertain from that is that what Cooley said before about you not being able to reproduce.
Of course, they can't respond to a
more
single
evident.
thing I want.
It's
These
becoming more and more evident
people who
every day.
don't know what the
This is
fuck
very
they're
important.
talking about,
This is
are
very
they don't respond to a thing I say because they know that they're
Gentlemen.
wrong. They know that they're.
Pardon me, gentlemen. I'm going to eat up the screen now. If you don't play well with each other, then I just take my ball and go home. Okay, Jake, please
Yeah,
finish.
so-
Cooley, I
What
believe
the
you had a
hell
thought
is
to
that?
add in, and then we'll get
Yeah.
back to you, Wick. Okay.
Yeah. Cooley, you're jumping straight after this, but I was just going to say that, Wick, if you go salsa dancing and you put like a nice colorful shirt on, you and your girl out salsa dancing, and you get home, and then there's an intruder in the home, and if you say, okay, baby, let's share this role. All right, I want you to take. You see how lonely your seed becomes, okay? You see how lonely that seed of yours becomes, Wick, because women, yes, you put the woman in the closet, my friend. You don't get the woman on the front lines. You put the woman in the closet. If there's a fight that breaks out in the street, she goes behind you. She should instinctively know to get away from the conflict as soon as possible and get far
I don't know
away.
why you're dating
Have
all
you ever
these
seen those
bitch-made
videos?
weak
I don't
women
know if you guys have ever seen those
Let
videos
him
where there's a
talk
fight
through.
happening in the middle of the street and the guy is having the fight and the chick tries to get involved in the fight and she's like grabbing him and then the guy gets knocked out because his chick was distracting him. That's you, Wick. That's you.
Damn.
Lonely seed, and you're going to.
Don't you watch these videos, Wick?
So Wick, I got a question for you, Wick.
Can I respond to that before you ask the question?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay.
Is that okay? It's your
Yeah,
house.
if he allows it,
yes. If he
Okay, fair
allows
enough.
it, yes.
Then I'll say this, right? This idea, right, that yes, if women help poorly, then it goes poorly. Absolutely. But I like women. What I'm attracted to is competence, okay? I like women who challenge me. I like women who are able to help me be the best person I can be. And I know you guys are laughing at this because you
No, it's
are
not.
able
Someone
to...
super chatted they'd smash you, so clearly they've been proven wrong. Super chat spoke with their money. So
A mash wick? I don't know what a mash is,
I
but that's
think they
weird.
meant to write an S.
I'm sure that they
instead
did,
of an
but spelling like thinking, like anything really is
rejected
not
by Wick.
exactly
Most competent
in
spellers.
their
Get the fuck
purview.
out, chatter.
But when it comes to, yes, exactly. If you're going to actually insult me, make it funny at least. Make it interesting.
I mean, I don't think this is a strong showing from Wick. I don't know that he's ever had a strong showing in a debate. He's not a bad guy, but I think what he's trying to do right now is go on some kind of revenge tour for his appearance on Tim Pool, because a lot of people were critical of him, and I think rightly so. I don't think he was as prepared as he needed to be. I mean, even Destiny watched his debate and was like, "What the fuck?" Even Destiny watched his debate and was like, "Dude, I mean, you know." It's not that you're not making good points, it's just that you don't know how to make them. And you're underestimating your opponents here. And Tim Pool as well. Holy shit. Oh, okay. You're not a bad guy, cool. So I think he's kind of like on a revenge tour right now, trying to like, I don't know, get his bona fides, his debate bona fides back or something. by going on, I mean, Raging Tomato's not that big, so it's incredibly possible to, you know, for Wick to go on there, especially because he, you know, does this kind of thing every day. But to think that he could go up against fucking Rattlesnake and Cooley and be like, you know, oh, I thought you guys were fucking masculine. You're sounding a bit soy, and then doing the whole Chris Hansen thing and all that. It's just it sounds like he doesn't know how to be edgy, you know. And there's nothing wrong with not knowing how to be edgy, but don't try if you don't know. I mean, I guess you have to experiment and get things right and wrong and over time, but you should have been doing that a long time ago. You've been on the internet for a couple years now doing exactly what we're looking at. So if you're going to be edgy, you know, you should have figured that out a while ago. I think that fucking ship has sailed. Yeah. Yeah, and I think Soypill is actually holding his own, but he starts every fucking sentence with, hey, why don't we just do this and this and this? Or, what if we were talking about this? And then all of a sudden somebody was like, hey. I'm like, fuck, dude, stop with the Destiny fucking soy tactics, bro. Or the soy etiquette, you know? I think it was, who was it? Was it Conrad for the soy etiquette? They all learned that from Destiny. You watch any Destiny debate, it will 9 times out of 10 there will be a bunch of times where he's like, you know, it'd be really good if, like, at some point, you know, people were doing this and this and that. I mean, just imagine we could just be like, hey, what about that, blah blah blah? Hey, they learned that from Destiny. They picked that up from Destiny because it's just ingrained, you know, subconsciously in their fucking mind. And now they do it all the time. Wick does it all the time, but Soypill's like going overboard on it.
Right, and then I'll respect you. But this idea that like women have no place and should hide, right? Look, if they are bad at helping, then fair enough. But I want a woman who would help me defend my home. I want a woman who would help me defend my family. Because if a woman doesn't care enough about their home to help defend it, then that's not a woman I want in my life.
You know, Wick, I agree with you. That's one thing we have something in common here, chat. I want y'all to know, me and Wick got this in common. I think that he actually does want and also need women to challenge him and help push him to be more masculine and more of a man because that's what he lacks at. So, question for you real quick, in regards to both of you actually can answer this one. What duties does women have that men don't? Because Soypill, you listed a lot of duties that men have. You talk about, you know, war and stuff like this and the duty of protection. And yeah, of course, that's not all men. But can you point out a duty? Well, the thing is this. Men do have a duty to protect and to provide. If men didn't have that duty, we wouldn't live in America. That is true. America wouldn't be a first world country. It will be more like a third world country. We'll be taken over by another country because men wouldn't be in the military to protect us, right? So we do need men actually have to have that duty to protect. Just like in Ukraine, women are leaving, but the men, they have to stay there and they have to fight. This is what the government enforces men to do. So the government enforces men to adhere to certain masculine male duties. My question to you is, should the government enforce women to adhere to any womanly feminine duties?
Yeah, I think this is where it gets interesting.
We got to sign up for selective service. Women don't.
I think women.
I think women should be conscripted, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I think women should sign up for selective service.
In fact, put them on the front lines because I don't want to get shot. Put them in front.
Okay.
Well, I don't agree. Hold on.
Disingenuous.
I don't agree with you.
I'm being serious about the first part. I do think that women should be conscripted in the same way. I don't think it's fair that you should just say, "Hey,
conscripted in what way? In the same duties as the man?"
Did it again. Hey,
hold on.
Doing in the military, which is a vast amount of roles. It doesn't have to be the front lines, which is not a very large part of
men who are conscripted generally.
Part of the military.
Men who are conscripted, in America at least.
Hold on, I want to give it to Wick. He was trying.
Men who are conscripted generally don't serve on the front lines. You guys understand that, correct? Right? Generally, in most combats, right? At least in America, I can't speak for other countries, but I can't speak for America, right? Conscripts who are drafted up perform more backline roles, logistics generally, right? When it comes to should women sign up for the selective, have to be required to sign up for selective service? Yes, I think they should. Do I think that women should be sent to the front lines? I think that if women wants to be on the front lines and can demonstrate a capacity to be at the front lines without lowering standards, then why not? However, I do think that in general, because men are stronger at average, that even if you keep the standards the same, more men will qualify for those standards than women. But I don't think that the government should be forcing women to have babies, if that's what you're asking.
What? Okay, so what I'm saying is this. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm saying that the government enforces men to adhere to some duty. And, you know, there's women that's the exception. Like you said, I'll give you that. But are there any other duties that the government should, you know, make women adhere to?
Well, I'll answer this. And like I said, like I think that if it became such an obvious existential problem that like within a generation or two, we wouldn't exist as a human species because people aren't having babies, I think it would be the time for the government to step in and say, hey, women, you have to have more babies. In the same way, I'm not really for conscription unless it is a existential and immediate threat. So in Ukraine right now, I would say that's an existential immediate threat. Their country is going to be taken over. I'd say World War II would qualify for that. I'd say Vietnam isn't, right? We're shipping all our people over to a place that they don't need to be to enforce our will because of some Cold War agenda. And I don't think you should conscript people for that. So yeah, in an existential scenario, you should draw on these biological imperatives that humans have and say, look, the government needs to step in and do something here because if we don't, we'll all die. But that's a very specific scenario. And again, we're talking about normal day-to-day life. What should men do? What should women do? This is like so far beyond the pale of what like actually happens and what we should be encouraging that, yeah, in these specific scenarios, you can get me to say we should tell them to do their biological functions, but this is just not what's currently happening in a vast majority of places.
So you think that in Japan and South Korea, they should do that?
It depends on how bad it gets and what the projections are, but I'd have to look into exactly.
Let me tell you. So the curve, when you look at population growth over the last sort of like 100 years or so, there was an exponential curve upwards for a little while, but then now it goes exactly the same on the way down. So then you've got places like Japan and South Korea that are about 1.2 birth rates, and this is absolutely an existential crisis for the Japanese people and the South Korean people, right? And America is on the same trajectory because you keep going down, and in a generation or two, maybe one generation, you guys are going to be in the same place there where it becomes an existential crisis. So you're saying that don't worry about it until the shit really hits the fan. The shit is inevitably going to hit the fan unless you do something.
No, I say don't worry about it unless you have some sort of anthropological that show when it would become a problem.
So you shouldn't be proactive?
No, this is exactly what I'm saying. Look, if you can show the projections, like, look, if you don't do this by this time, like we're going to have a problem, then yeah, I think the government needs to step in. Now, I would consider that we're not currently there. And even in places where we are worried about this, like I said, with Georgia, Hungary, or all these places where they're trying to promote traditional roles, it's just not working, right? Like I think you'd have to be really, really extreme with it then at a certain point and say, hey, look, we're just forcing women to give birth. It would have to become some like Handmaid's Tale-esque thing because the degree to which we're incentivizing it in these other places is not working. By the way, I didn't realize you were Australian, Jake, but now I'm even more insulted by the fact you keep saying we and having to go to the military.
Wait, are neither of you American?
Like, you were fucking in Australia, buddy.
Wait. So just quickly, what were the last few wars that Australia fought in? Can you tell me?
I don't think there's any.
You don't know.
Yeah.
So you don't know that Australia fights in every single war that America fights in. Good one.
Did you
Australia
fight in
fights in every single war? The Vietnam War, the Australians got conscripted. The Iraq War, the Afghanistan War, the Australians always fighting the exact same wars as America. So maybe educate yourself. If you're going to make claims like that, maybe make sure you have something.
I'm just saying you shouldn't lump yourself in. I'm not pretending to be in the military. You're like, it's my male gender role, and you fucking sit inside and podcast all day like a little bitch. But I do that too, so I'm not trying to pretend I'm better than you.
Yeah, so Soy Pill, it's funny that you say that, when I asked you that question, you went on this, long-winded answer, but you essentially said that, only like if it gets to an extreme where we actually need to enforce women to adhere to some duty and men to adhere to their duties and stuff like that, then we need to do it. So you would wait to pretty much, I'm saying that you're looking at things from a reactional standpoint.
Yes.
What me and Jake are saying here is we're looking at it from a proactive standpoint. And since influence is a very powerful force, if you influence the masses, right, to do these things, it wouldn't have to come where you need to be proactive and the world turns into Handmaid's Tale.
And wait, let me really quickly respond, because the problem is, again, you have to show me that somehow by enforcing these gender roles, we're going to now have replacement rates. But again, if you go look at any of these studies, this is not borne out in the data. This is not promoting these things does not get people to have more babies. This is a problem widespread across the world. So yeah, sure, I think it would be better if we could just say, hey, socially, we should probably have some sort of expectation of some woman to do this, because if they did, then we wouldn't get to this existential thing. But it's not happening that way, and this isn't going to stop it from happening.
You know why?
But there is an example. Let me just really quickly give you an example. If you look at Romania in the 1960s, they wanted to address their birth rate. So what they did was they took away abortion and contraception and went from 1.9 to 3.7 in a few years. So yeah.
Okay. Well, if that were to be borne out, I don't know if that's what's happening in Hungary, Georgia, where they're trying these very, very aggressive things. It's really just not working in the same way. And I think we live in a different time than the 1960s. I don't think that's necessarily going to work. But hey, if that's what needs to happen, if it's an existential crisis, I understand. And that's why I'm saying, yeah, I prefer the people to have choices and be able to make their own choices until it gets to a point where the choice between, hey, do I want people to have freedom or will we cease to exist as a species comes up? And then I say, yeah, I guess in that trolley problem, I will throw away choice because otherwise we will all die and choice won't matter.
But
that's when it matters.
The thing is,
hold on. I did want to give Wick, and then back to you, David. Thank you.
There are examples of governments in the modern day trying to incentivize their population to have more kids, right? And I think that there was a European, I forget if it was the Netherlands or Sweden. So forgive me if I get the exact name of the country wrong here, but they are, for example, saying, hey, if you are a woman and you have so many kids, you don't have to pay taxes for the rest of your life. And I think these are perfectly thank you. I think these are perfectly fine incentives to make. I think there are good incentives and there are bad incentives. There are good ways to promote things and there are bad ways to promote things. And I think that what Hungary is doing with the tax breaks and things like that are very good incentives. And I think that when we talk about these existential crises, I'll just ask you, do you think that Japan, because you've mentioned that a few times, Jake, do you think that they are in a state where you think that the government should force women to have kids?
No, I don't think that there should be any force, but I think that there should be incentive, and there should be government propaganda campaigns that incentivize women to have children. So
what if
that doesn't work?
The things.
Yeah, what if that doesn't
if
work?
you just
That
let me
doesn't
speak
work.
for more than 7
Yeah,
seconds,
but your point doesn't matter.
Then
What
I'll
if it
be able
doesn't
to
work?
actually extrapolate on the point that I'm making. I'll be able to build it out, right? So if you look at what they're doing in Hungary at the moment, what they did was they gave tax incentives to women to have X amount of babies, right? And then eventually, if they have 4 children or more, then they won't pay income tax for the rest of their life. That managed to flatline the birth rate for a little while, but it didn't actually manage to raise the curve. So in Japan and South Korea, what they're now doing is they're getting in immigrants from all around the world, and they're a very culturally homogenous country, so they don't want to be doing that. But what they need to be doing is to be having government propaganda campaigns and also incentivizing like family structures, etc. Families to look after the kids. There needs to be some sort of like a national campaign.
Can you give a fourth
towards
example that's
having
like
children.
the exact same thing and then answer our question?
Yeah, well,
I'd like to turn it to David because it was his turn if you wanted to add on to that.
I mean, the question that I was going to ask was, because the thing is, I keep moving the goalpost so much. So let me just get it back on, I think the argument and the question and also the contradiction that you don't realize. But anyways, here we go. So Soy Pill, again, you said that you are okay. You would not stop the promotion of feminism. You would not stop the promotion of feminism.
What do you mean by feminism? If you can't define it, I can't help you there because I don't know what you're asking me to say.
Egalitarianism.
That everyone should be equal in every metric, or that we should genuinely treat people the same?
Both.
Okay. No, I think we should not promote that. I don't think that you should force egalitarianism. I don't think you can force opportunity.
No, not force. I said promote.
I don't think we should promote the idea that everyone needs to have the exact same outcomes. No.
No, not outcomes. Okay, so not outcomes.
If I'm saying we should promote that we should treat everyone to some degree of respect equally, then yeah, I think I'll support that.
No, like men and women are equal. Pretty much women, you can go out there and do everything that a man can do.
Again, that's the outcome, right? I don't think there should be 50-50 gender in every job. I don't think that women and men have to have the exact same amount of gold medals at the top tier of Olympics, right? This is not something I would promote if that's what you're saying feminism is.
Okay, so you wouldn't promote feminism at all then?
If that's what you think feminism is, then I don't.
So what do you think feminism is?
Again, I'm not a feminist, so I'm not going to speak on the whether or not I've read all the literature, but I'm just saying I think that women should have their agency and choice, and yeah, we're walking in circles. But I do really want Jake to answer the question of like, again, what do you do if all this stuff you're promoting and saying that Japan and Hungary need to do doesn't work? Would you like, because I'll bite the bullet. I'll say that the government should intervene when it becomes so dire that like they will literally not exist. Do you agree with that, or do you think they should?
Yeah, you get rid of abortion and you get rid of contraception.
And what if that doesn't work? What if they don't have enough babies for replacement?
Well, but I mean, you could just respond that to every single thing that I say. But we have seen areas in the world where these things have worked. We've seen it work in Hungary. We saw it work in Romania in the 1960s. And these things are incentives for people to have less more children. And they're definitely incentives for people to not have casual sex outside of relationships more. You can also have cultural stigma that you can have cultural stigma that stigmatizes people having sex outside of wedlock, etc. There are many different things that you can do, and it will be better than what they have.
Cool.
For sure.
All right, cool. So what would you do if that didn't work? I'm going to keep asking because apparently you can't engage with this hypothetical.
I am engaged with the hypothetical, and I've given you all of the different things that you can do. So
what would you do? When none of that works, what would you do? The point is, if government force is the only way to do it, would you accept it? Would you say that the government should force it because otherwise we won't exist?
What do you mean? Say that again.
If government force was the only way to perpetuate the human species, do you think the government should force people to enlist to defend our country against aliens? Do you think they should enlist women to have babies because otherwise they won't have enough to replace it in the next generation? Do you think that the government should do that?
Well, there's a certain level of force that the government can actually do. And in terms of conscription, I think that is a duty that does fall on men collectively. But then also with women, you can't actually inseminate them forcefully because then that would be
I promise you people have found a way for the entirety of humanity.
But yeah, for the entirety of humanity, people have had kids. And generally it's in times when there was more strong traditional roles and when there was stronger family structures, etc. So what we could do is, like I said 50 times, is all of these different government incentives and societal structures that actually incentivize
I'm just trying to
family.
find out
Right now we have the antithesis.
Didn't work.
Right now, we have the total antithesis of that. And the antithesis of that is that we promote abortion. We promote abortion as a means of contraception. We have to completely destroy the family. Divorce rate is higher than ever. Kids are growing up in single-parent homes. People.
That's not true.
Divorce rates.
Divorce rates are down.
History when it was.
Divorce rates are down from the early 2000s. Absolutely.
Down from last year?
No, down from the early 2000s.
You look at it from the 1950s, 1940s, when America had a stronger family structure, it's up.
But abortion's become more common since then.
So let me just finish up the point. So kids are raised in single mother households. People are pair bonding less. People are getting married later. Women are not having children until they're in their 30s. Women are going into higher education, into the workforce more, and all of these things are being incentivized. So you can keep on asking questions about, well, what if that doesn't work? What if that doesn't work? But I've just laid out the entire map for you. So take it and do what you will with it.
But you understand.
I'm just curious about what you would do in a hypothetical.
I got to engage with this because you said something that was just simply not true, right? When we talk about like the divorce rates, we have seen the divorce rates in the West, in America specifically, specifically drop from about 11.1 to about a little over 7, I believe. The last time they checked was the last time I could find at least was like 2022, 2021, right? And so obviously in our current society, we have found a way, whatever that might be, in order to reduce divorce rates. We do not need to promote traditional gender roles, because I doubt you guys would say we've been promoting traditional gender roles for the last 20 years in America, right? We do not need to do that to reverse to get rid of divorce rates. And this is kind of the key central point that I think you guys just have failed to address.
So you're going to pick up one thing that I said, and you're going to say there was a slight
specifically
decrease
actually
in
continue to make my point without you interrupting, because you know that this is not making me look good, right? This idea, right, that we have to, that we need to enforce or promote or influence, whatever word you want to use here, these strict traditional gender roles is just not true. It's not borne out by the data. There are other ways to achieve the goals that I think that we could even agree. I'll toss you this bone. I do think that there are things that we should do to society to make men safer, to make men more productive, to give them more purpose. But I think that we can do that outside of the traditional gender roles. And again, with the divorce rate specifically, this is some data that we actually have that we can show that we did not need to enforce gender roles in order to reduce the divorce rate from about 11.1.
Sure. Let me just grant this to you, okay? Sure, I'm going to grant you that there has been a slight uptick in people not getting divorced over a period of time in the last 20 years. Now, do you think that the divorce rates have gone up or down since 1950? Tell me that.
I think that they've gone down since the 1700s too, or up, I should say. Divorce rates have gone up.
So do you think people are getting divorced more? Now, if you can just engage in good faith, do you think people are getting divorced more now or more in the 1950s? Okay, fantastic. Do you think that people are getting married later now, or do you think they're getting married later?
They're getting married later now because they're living longer.
They're getting married later now. Do you think that people are having less kids now? Or do you think, hold on,
two more.
Okay, sorry, Peel, I'm actually not talking to you, but I know that
you're not talking to anyone. We all understand this.
Wick TV, I was speaking to him. So, Wick TV, do you think that women are having less children now or more children
now? They're having less children.
Fantastic. Now, do you think that the birth rates are going down or they're going up right now?
In the West, they're going down.
Okay, so Wick, there is the map for you. Now you can try and nitpick one little part of it and say, well, there's been a turnaround in divorce rates. Good, I'll just grant it for you. But I've got 20 things and you've got nothing.
But no, you've not connected a single one of these things to traditional gender roles. This is a failure of your argument. You have made all these facts, right? And I'll cede them to you that all these things are true. However, you're positing that these are because of the traditional gender roles when there are a host of other factors, some of which you mentioned and ceded to earlier, like in Japan with urbanization and things like that. I think the technology has been a huge factor, contraception, etc., all these things. So to point and to tie these things specifically to gender roles, this is what you have failed to do in your argument. You understand that,
if it's not tied to gender roles, then what is it tied to?
There are a host of possible variables that we can go through.
So, for example, it depends on the link with something, you win a fucking Nobel Prize. Like,
we got a link already.
So please let me finish. Right? It really depends on the data point you're looking to.
You spoke enough, and you're not really saying too much.
Hold on,
can I bring this back? I have a really important question.
Yeah, so again, it really depends on the specific data point that you're looking at that we can explain these things. Like when you look at the rates of divorce, right? Are they higher now than they were in the 1950s? Yes, because there are much less restrictions on it and things like that. This has nothing to do with gender roles.
Well, let me ask a question.
Okay, cool, real quick. So if we don't,
so I wanted to add in. So I wanted to add in, and then back to you, David.
Jake, you were talking about like, oh, this is an absurd hypothetical, like getting the government to force people to do this. But the reason I ask is because feminism and this idea of promoting choice and women's rights and sexual promiscuity and all this stuff rose out of the culture that you guys are promoting, right? These traditional masculine roles, the 40s, 50s, 60s, 30s. Feminism came out and was appealing to women and even men at that time, in spite of the fact that you would argue that those societies were better or closer to what you want society to be like. So how then are you going to enforce these?
Sounds like Destiny. Yeah. I've literally been saying that this whole time. They not only do the arguments sound like it, but also like just even their debate etiquette. They take a lot of immigrants from East Asia with more holistic picture. The problem is not mutually sustainable given these countries often also have low birth rates. Good luck on getting Japan guys laid. They are super perverted and incels over there. Welcome in, Soviet.
These things when you have these incentive structures that in the past inevitably lead to feminism rising up and trying to promote these ideas that you think suck. It's going to happen again unless you have some way, unless you're okay with the government forcing them to do a certain thing. No.
Well, feminism rose up because of a lot of propaganda. Women, if you look back in the early 40s and 50s, women actually would vote against it. They didn't want to be in the workforce. So what you're saying is it doesn't make sense. It's not rooted into reality of what women actually want. What I'm saying is propaganda. So let's get to the root of everything, because manipulation happens when you focus on the effects instead of getting to the root of things. And Sarah, I know you tried to move off, and y'all tried to move off too off of influence, but we're not moving off. We're going right back because that is the source of everything. Influence. Influence creates thinking. Thinking creates behavior. If you can defeat that argument, God dang, you win the debate. So since influence creates thinking, how you think and the actions that you are going to take, should we? And this debate, I keep moving the goalposts. This debate is literally about, should traditional roles have a place in modern society? It should have a place in modern society. And the reasons why it isn't, the reasons why people are moving away from gender roles is because of propaganda like feminism, which soy pill, you keep going up. You are a complete male feminist. You never really answer the question. You kind of like move away from answering the question, and I let it go, but I'm like,
I promise you,
no, that's not happening anymore. It's not happening anymore. So,
well, listen, if you're right, if influence is so important,
first and foremost,
your side has been absolutely
stop right there, soy pill. Stop right there, soy pill.
Gentlemen.
Stop it.
He has to interrupt. He's terrified of the
He got it.
arguments.
He's
David,
terrified.
go ahead and finish your thought, and then Soy, you are welcome to respond.
The low tier tactic.
Low tier tactics. And the thing is, your arguments, you keep making arguments like, well, should we physically enforce these things or not physically enforce these things? What I'm saying is very simple and true. You can't defeat it. We wouldn't have to.
So why are we arguing about it?
Stop it. We wouldn't have to physically enforce anything, and the world turned into Handmaid's Tale, or something else, if we mentally enforce it with influence. But I'm telling you right now, there's an opposite influence that is influencing people not to adhere to gender roles. This is why you're seeing the decline in birth rates. This is why you're seeing the abortion rate. This is why you're seeing all of these negative effects, because of the propaganda that's pushed away from gender roles. We are arguing for gender roles. You get what I'm saying? Guess what? Soy pill, you actually agreed to many of the things that we argued for, which you already know. Men are naturally stronger than women in a lot of things. You know these biological truths, but for some reason you want to speak the opposite of the biological truths.
I haven't spoken the opposite of any biological truth. I think it's very clear what I'm saying is that.
No, you have.
Which biological truth have I spoken the opposite of?
One, you said that, well, I'm okay with women going into the biological truth that you spoke against. You said that, well, I'm neutral on, I think that, choice is everything. Well, what would you want to influence then? Because something has to influence someone from choosing something, but you're totally against gender roles.
I'm not.
That's
oh
what I'm
my
saying.
God! Apparently you're not active listening, as you so have proposed throughout this entire debate. I never said I'm against the good things that come from gender roles. I'm just saying we don't have to strictly promote this for male and female. And I'll keep repeating that until you understand it. I'm not saying, we have to do this, we have to do that. I'm saying that people having choices is better, and no, we don't have to say that men must do this, and if they don't, then somehow they're bad men. And I'm gonna keep repeating that. I don't know why you can't understand this. And I'm not saying that clearly men aren't stronger. I'm not saying that men aren't better at things that require strength. I'm just saying that not all men are going to be doing these things, and therefore we don't have to say you're not a real man if you don't do these things. So I don't understand what's so difficult.
Okay, so you want to restrict speech?
Did I say that?
Because that's what's going to happen. You said that
I can watch the words.
That's what's going to happen.
A few wavelenths over to you, and you
great. No. That's what's going to happen. Well, I don't think people should say to people, well, you if you don't adhere to these gender roles, that you're a loser or something like that. That's what's going to happen.
It is? Well, then what are you doing? Why are you debating? If everything is such a biological imperative, if somehow feminism is going to lose because of the natural hierarchy of man and woman, why are you can just sit back in your chair, you don't have to fight in the military, you can just twiddle your thumbs and it'll all work out for you. So what are you worried about?
To move over to our closing statements, and then we can read and respond to some of the super chats. And I'm seeing the chat. There's a lot of people already wanting to get in on open panel, so I don't want to hold them off any longer. Okay, I believe, Wick, would you like to begin with your closing statement?
Certainly. So I think that we've made it pretty clear in this debate that while I have nothing against gender roles, and I think that I wouldn't want to abolish stay-at-home moms or anything like that. I think that we have amply demonstrated that egalitarianism is superior as a form of ideology and as something to promote. When we talk about dealing with reality, one of the points that neither of my interlocutors here have been able to address is the fact that every single Western country who has gone further towards egalitarianism has outperformed by almost every metric the countries who have not, and who have stayed in the more patriarchal, traditional kind of wavelengths. I think that when it comes down to it, it really is a freedom of choice, right? I think that if a man wants to stay at home and watch his children while his wife earns the money, that's okay. I think if a woman wants to stay at home and watch her kids while her man goes out and earns bread, that's also okay. I think that I should not be able to choose for them what they do. And the advice I would give to them, right? What sort of lifestyle should I live? the one that makes you feel most satisfied, the one that you want to do. Now, I think that naturally, without any coercion, without any force, without any pressure, this will naturally kind of lead to more men in certain roles, more women in certain roles, and that's perfectly fine. But we don't need to be promoting, right, or stymieing people going into these gender roles. If they are actually natural things, it will happen without our input, and I think that's okay. I'm Wick TV. If you like what I say or you hate what I say, you can find me on Wick TV on all platforms. Check me out. Thanks for having me. I do appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Wick. Soy to you.
Yeah, I don't think my opponents know what I'm even against because they don't know what a gender role is. I don't think men shouldn't fight in the military. I don't think we need to have a 50-50 military. I think that men and women should have the choice to be in what I'm the soy pill. I make video essays on politics, type 1 to end the deep state, and I thought that I would be the largest person on this panel and thus the most correct. Although I see Cooley, you also work out, and Jake, maybe you do too. You're hiding your arms, so all my working out was for nothing. But thank you for joining. I had a good time.
Thank you, Soy. Jake, to you.
Yeah, I thought that our opponents' arguments tonight were quite frankly embarrassing. They actually never really gave a definition of feminism and what they really think that feminism is, which is interesting. And they were just intentionally vague the entire time, which is a very low tier sort of tactic. And they were constantly shifting the goalposts and constantly using all of these different tactics that are just quite frankly low tier. They even admitted that women are weaker and less effective than men, which I found really interesting because that actually just plays into our point that women, yes, they're less effective and they're weaker than men. And that's why we need men to have certain societal duties as a collective. Now, we never said that all men have to do this. We said that this is a collective duty, and we made that very clear. But they kept on going back to that because they actually couldn't contend with the arguments. So I actually really enjoyed this. I found that, like I said, the arguments from the other side were just quite frankly embarrassing. And it was an easy W for me and Cooley. Been coming for a minute, but yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jake. David, to you.
You know what? Let's get rid of gender roles. Put me in a room with these two guys, and their only option is to fight me back 2-on-1 or call the police. But guess what? There's no gender roles, so they're gonna get some women police that show up. Guess what? Y'all both dying, and I'm killing a woman police too. That's what's gonna happen if you abolish gender roles. You get what I'm saying?
Man, I would kneel on your neck so hard they'd be painting murals of you in New York City. I'm just telling you, brother. I'd kneel on your neck so hard they'd be painting murals of you in New York City. Just saying.
How are they cutting me off? You're that triggered. You're that feminine.
I will
you just
say
said you were going to kill us.
It's closing statements,
He just said he was
gentlemen.
going to kill us.
David, go ahead.
Appreciate you, Sarah.
Be mindful of
Appreciate
the death threats, David.
It's
Saying you're going to kneel on a black man's neck. Nice one, Wick.
That was a bit much,
but,
Wick.
You know what? I would say
That
these
was a
guys
bit-
were very
that's-
disingenuous.
I mean, like, that literally just goes into the point what I was talking about. Like, he doesn't know how to be edgy. He should have been learning how to be edgy many moons ago. He has his own platform. He could fucking say whatever he wants. And he's had a bunch of people come on his platform that he can learn how to be edgy from. And it just doesn't work. I mean, you know, maybe somebody else could get away with saying something to the effect of leaning. I would lean on your neck. I would lean on your neck so hard that they would paint murals of you in New York City. Maybe somebody else can get away with that, but you can't get away with that, Wick. That was just like, he's bad at it. And you don't have to be good at it, but if you're not good at it, don't try to be.
With the things like they know these biological truths. They were very vague, like Jake said. They never really gave a definition towards about feminism. When it came to influence and stuff like that, they really didn't want to battle with that. Really didn't answer questions on that. It was like, let me just try to avoid this topic. They try to stick with topics that they're comfortable with, like moving the goalposts and always speaking about effects. Me and Jake was always continuously trying to will it back in to get to the cause of things, which is biology. But other than that, man, this podcast was cool. I appreciate all of you for having me. Shout out to Soy Pill and Wick TV. At the end of the day, my name is Cooley with No Fugazi Podcast. Give me a follow. Subscribe.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right. Just a kind reminder to our members, I'm going to drop that link shortly to the StreamYard link to a members only post, and you'll be able to see that there. You'll be first in line, and then anybody else behind that, I will drop it publicly here shortly. Okay, we're gonna get through some super chats. Are all of the gentlemen? Are you all staying for open panel?
For a little, I gotta get out of here.
Okay,
I can stay
Sorry,
for a
man,
little
leave
bit.
it,
I got
Jake. You wanna
about
show face? Come on, man.
got about maybe like
Well, Jake has
Half
to go
hour
nurse
Remy.
his wounds.
I think I've already had my way with these two gentlemen. Already beaten down on
Why-
them hard
why-
enough, and I
why
won't
do you
spare them
want- like,
any
why do
more.
you do
Both
this?
of you want to
be
be
in
in
a
a
room
room
alone
with
with
I've
us.
got to
It's
go and
kinda
eat my
weird.
breakfast. Got to go and eat my protein, and I've had enough soy today.
Can you flex for us? I want to see how big your arms are.
Why would I do that? Why would I be such a homosexual?
He's pretty muscular.
Honestly, wearing a
You said the
spring
gender roles
singlet
better
like
than me.
yourself.
Show me how big your arms are, buddy. Let's see. Come on.
Fuck it.
Man,
All right,
so what a
gentlemen.
weak ass
Unfortunately,
little
unlike
bitch.
you,
That's
I'm
funny.
not
DJ
I'm
Nuts
not
with
bleeding
a big
into
five
weak little bitch.
said,
Bleeding
into
has
protein and then don't do
Western
anything with it in bed,
culture
buddy.
had better relations between the sexes as they've androgenized men and women's role in society? Anybody's welcome to respond. If nobody responds, I'll just keep moving on.
What does better relations? I need to know more. Like, what does better relations mean in this context?
I don't know.
I don't know either, so it's hard to answer the question.
I think if you're talking about the idea that like men do have a loneliness epidemic, I don't think that's because men have been more feminized. I think that's largely due to the fact that men had a role that allowed them to get women, which was making money. And now that's not enough anymore because women make money too and they want a little more. Men don't have emotional regulation. They don't really know how to talk to women as a whole because people don't teach them how. And I actually do agree with Cooley that, fathers should have a better role in, emotionalizing and conditioning men to understand how to talk to these people. But I don't think it's exclusive to fathers. And that's only a gender role insofar as we have to counteract the gender roles that have existed, since then. And you can do that with everyone, mothers, fathers, whatever.
So you think a mother can raise her
I think
son
a mom
into a
would help
man?
me get more bitches than a man. Yeah.
No, that's not what I said. I said, do you think a mother can raise her son into a man?
Raise her into a man? I think definitely. Definitionally, yeah. If you're saying, can she teach him to be more masculine than a father could? That depends
That's
on
what I'm
who the
saying.
mom is and who the father is.
That's what I'm saying.
It depends
More
on the case.
masculine.
I think in general, a
Depends.
man would probably know how to teach masculine things better if they were practicing more masculine things. Yeah.
Fair enough.
All right. Sam Slenderman with the big five says, Wick, what are the comparative odds where a man has to disarm a woman versus a woman disarming a man, and who can take more bullets before falling?
Sure, if you're talking about a close combat fight where they just round a corner and on each other, right? I think that a man's going to win that in almost every case. Who can take more bullets before falling? Like, depending on the caliber, you're not taking more than one. Right? It depends, right? Like, you're not taking more than one.
Women are
You're going to go
biologically
down,
better
and
at
that will be
target sport shooting. If you didn't know that, women actually have a better and more steady hand thanks to their
in marksmanship at the Olympics and things
being
like
less
that.
emotional. I don't fucking know.
There's some studies that suggest that, but it's
Jake, did I mog you into staying? You're still here.
Yeah, I'm going to stay for a little while. I'm going to stay
Yeah.
for a little while.
I
Yeah, there's
appreciate
some
it. Thanks for coming.
interesting things coming up on this panel, so I'll stay for a little while.
And to the members, by the way, the link is pinned on a members only post. You can see that, hop backstage. You've got about 2 more minutes before I drop it publicly. Rachel Wilson in with the big 20. I'm a certified firearms instructor. I've taught mostly
timing.
women. At least 70% of them can't load a spring-loaded magazine or work the action on an automatic
Andrew
pistol
Wilson's,
or a bolt-action rifle.
wife.
Cuck team is Delulu, win Jake and Cooley.
Yeah, but
I
why
have
should we
two
trust
things
a
to this.
woman's
Sounds
opinion on
like-
shooting?
Yeah, first of all, it sounds like she's a dog shit instructor. Second of
True.
all, Rachel Wilson believes that women shouldn't be able to vote, so I don't care what the fuck she says. She's a dumb, measly woman. Get out of here, Rachel.
True. And she's a liar.
Oh.
Wow, you guys are tough behind her back, eh?
Oh, she can come on
stream, I'll call you a
anytime.
dumb, measly
Anytime.
woman.
Oh, don't you? Oh, don't you
Go
worry, fellas.
backstage.
Don't you
Come
worry,
on up.
fellas. Don't you worry, fellas. You're gonna.
Oh, I've dealt with Andrew fucking
you're about
Wilson
to hear
before.
it.
I've knelt
Don't
on
worry,
his
guys,
neck
don't
as
worry,
well, and
guys.
I'll do so
Husband,
again.
listen, fucking
It's
hard.
not hard.
Stick
He's one of the
around.
weakest little baby ass
Stick around,
bitches that I've
fellas.
ever had the pleasure.
Stick around, fellas.
of
It's
It's
destroying.
ironic
Stick
that
around,
these two
fellas.
soy
It's
boys are
great.
speaking to a woman like that. Come on, man. You're supposed
Hey,
to
I
be
called you a little
masculine.
baby bitch too. I'm
Oh, yeah, you'll get some of this flack too. Don't worry.
Let's
That's
be
why you're a reproductive dead end, so-
respectful.
Hey, I'll
Gentlemen,
impregnate your wife too. Don't worry about it.
gentlemen.
Oh, yeah,
Rachel,
we'll take turns.
Very nice lady. I don't appreciate we calling her names. Raw Dog with the big 20. You served in the chair force. I can tell you from the real combat sides, women were not able to do what we did overseas on the ground. I saw it firsthand and had to clean up the messes. That's the polite version. And then Cool Barracuda says Moss Wick, MOS. MOS Wick, former Army 68W PSYOP saying women did good in range qualifications, disingenuous, or you were just buns. Lower standard for BS like Ranger School. They can't pass SOF requirements. Woman and war equals instant L.
Well,
You're
my
welcome to
MOS, I was a
respond.
cryptolinguist. My target language was Mandarin Chinese, at least for the first half. But full disclosure, I'm not very good at Mandarin Chinese, so I became a crew chief. I worked on the KC-135 airframe.
Well, could a sexist man do this? Go on, Wick. Speak a little Chinese for him.
Can you show Zhangwen? Yo, EDR. There you go.
Robert Tamita with the big 10 to say thank you for the stream, Sarah. And thank you, Robert Tamita. Always polite. I'm trying to find them as quickly as I can here. Millennial Mike with the big 20. That absolute stud from the fake country of Australia is bodying those two soy boys. Win Rattlesnake. Super chat, your gracious host who is doing the Lord's work tonight. We need more traditionally strong masculine men. And then let's see, Crimson King with the big 10. Masculinity has not changed. Soy boy just spewed a bunch of word salad.
Cool. I challenge that person to come in and give me a consistent definition of masculinity throughout the thousands of years that humans have existed.
All right. And a question, Sam said, Wick, would you take your own advice, man up and just accept it if society moved back to Christianity, woman at home, and laws against abortion?
So, would I take my own advice? I'm not sure what he's referring to there, but if people want to be Christian, they're more than happy to. I'm not an anti-Christian guy. I think that we lost a lot when we moved away from religion, actually. But one of the problems I see in today's society is that these so-called Christians, right, have basically killed Christianity, have skinned it, and are wearing it like a suit. They can't explain, they don't follow the teachings of Christ, right? They don't follow the words of the Lord, and instead follow podcasters and influencers, these graven images, these false idols, these wolves in sheep clothing. So I would love a return to actual Christianity. But what we have today is just this false,
Take the hood off before he says something like that.
malnourished, just this fake version that's out there, and it's
Christianity speaks specifically about gender roles in many of the passages. So that's a contradiction to your entire worldview if you want to move back to Christianity.
I've said, maybe you guys don't understand. Maybe I'm not using English. I slip into Chinese. But the whole point throughout this panel is that I don't have a problem with gender roles. I have a problem with strict enforcement of traditional gender roles that you all don't seem to understand what they are because you put up people like Andrew Tate as an example of masculinity. And I have a real big problem with that.
The Bible, Christianity speaks about this.
I don't think you understand
in many
Christianity.
passages specifically. What are you talking about?
Wait, I don't know. Is that how you like inform your gender roles, Cooley? Like you're like, because the Bible said so?
No, I'm rebutting him. He's saying that, well, I would move towards Christianity.
Which is
I'm letting him know that, well, Christianity is for the promotion of gender roles.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you know enough about Christianity to speak on it, frankly.
Ah, man.
Get him.
All right.
Get him is like, you never read the Bible? I can tell you never read the Bible. Or you read the Bible.
You know I was a missionary for a few years?
With like your feminist glasses on. So you read it through a feminist lens where you really didn't get the message.
All right. Airborne Animal with the Big 10 says, it is obvious that Soy Boy and White Van Wick have not had to deal with real violence. If they had, they would not want their woman to be anywhere near it.
Yeah, sorry, I want my woman to be able to deal with physical confrontations, and you want them to go in the closet, that's where they're going to kiss girls, okay? Do you want your woman to, get lost to another woman? I don't think so. I think she should be out there beating the shit out of the guy while I kick his face in, all right? Like, just train your woman to fight. It's not that hard. Well, except for Rachel. She's not doing a great job.
Okay. Sorry, these are coming in. I'm doing 10 and up or questions of anything less. FB with a Big 10. Jake won the debate. Game over. Spyro with a Big 20. 2 points. Wick, who gets the lifeboat? Number 2, if you are in a scenario where you need women to be forced via government to have babies, congrats, gender roles. The Soy Boys lost.
Yeah, it'd be cool if like our opponents would engage with that point. But I do think it's funny that it's like, hey, if you're in a scenario where you need women to be forced via government to have babies, congrats, gender roles. It's like, yeah, that's kind of the whole point we were making, where it's like, yeah, if you're in an existential crisis that doesn't currently exist, maybe you need to step in and do something. But we're talking about modern day society and not like, hey, like everyone's about to die because aliens are coming and how do we force people to have babies? So also, by the way, that's not a Big 20. That's Canadian monopoly money.
True. Which is, look, I'm not for oppressing people, but Canadians, I make an exception. Okay.
Oh, careful. We have a pretty...
I know.
Large,
I have a lot of Canadians that follow me too, and I don't know why. But
yeah, maybe they're just bored.
Because they're not natural leaders. Look at their debates; they were so boring and weak. They needed an American up there to show them how to govern a country. Maybe they should be the 51st state.
Rachel says with the Big 20, Jake is correct. Russia also had to make abortion illegal and promote natalism in the 1930s because there were 3 abortions for every live birth, and they were on the verge of collapse. It fixed the problem.
Oh, Russia had a lot of problems in the 1930s, okay? Right? We're talking about a society that was struggling with revolution and the growing pains of the USSR, basically. To point to a single factor for the verge of collapse that they were on is just kind of silly.
Yeah, I want to throw a bone to Rachel and say, well, first of all, like, why am I listening to you, dumb woman? But also, like, yeah, maybe if this is true, if we could bear out that, like, every time you do this abortion thing, if you ban abortion, that will, fix the problem that we're seeing in all these countries, then I would say, yeah, maybe that's the case. I doubt that it's that simple, and I would posit that she doesn't understand, and it's a lot more complicated than that, but that's just because she doesn't know what she's talking about and shouldn't have an opinion, so I can't really take her seriously. If Andrew comes in and repeats it, then maybe we can talk about it.
All right. Scurvy Derby Schmumman with the Big 10. Yo, Wick, divorce rates are down, but has the marriage rates stayed the same?
Got the data right here. The U.S. marriage rate in 2012 was 16.6 compared to 16.7 in 2022, according to the American Community Survey. During the same period, divorce rates dropped from 9.8 to 7.1. There you go.
All right. And last one for now, and then we'll open up the panel. Timbo himself with the Big 10 says, who would I follow as my leader? Jake, Cooley, Sarah. If the other ladies were an option, I'd run to the other side. Oh, my. All right, that's
I'm
fair.
strong and faster than him. I wouldn't let him get away.
All right, are we ready to open up into open panel dumpster fire?
I got about 30 minutes, by the way, and then I got to
Perfect. So what I'll do is if anybody has questions directly for you, I'll allow those to come through first. That way we can expedite and make your time worth something here. All right, here we go. All right, let me just express some rules here for everybody so we understand. I am Sarah. If you hear my voice, that means
fucking BPF made it on here. Interesting.
you should probably shut up. I will let you get through your talking points, ask your questions, so on and so forth. But if you start talking over each other, I start getting very irritated. All right, floor is open.
Yeah, I won't stay very long. I just had a question for each debater. Starting with Wick. Wick, you were saying during the debate that all these Western nations, why are they outperforming everybody who doesn't follow or follows a patriarchal society? Which of those Western nations, besides the United States, outperforming China, Wick?
Outperforming China. Do you think that China is a country which promotes traditional values?
Yes, and traditional patriotism. Yes,
I
yes,
think
it
that
is.
China. You just don't understand. Like the PRC, for example, had mandatory abortions for most of its existence, right?
Yeah. So what? It's a patriarchal society. Is the point? You said if it's
so you think
patriarchal? You said if it's a patriarchal society, that all Western nations are outperforming all patriarchal societies. Can you tell me which Western nation's outperforming China, Wick?
So America for the first of all.
Yeah, I said other than America, Wick. Don't name a single one.
Proves them wrong, Wick.
Can you name a single one besides America that's outperforming China?
I think the EU, right, is largely. Look, would you rather live in the EU or would you rather
answer
live in China?
Answer my question, Wick.
I'm answering your question by asking you one. Do you think that
asking me a question is the opposite of answering my question, Wick?
This will answer your question, I promise.
Okay, so you're not going to answer my question. All right, so I'll ask this my second question.
Do you think?
Okay, answer it. Wick, which one?
Would you rather live in China?
That's asking me a question. Answer my question. That's asking a question. Answer my question, please.
I think that we can understand that most people would rather live in Western societies than live in
That's not what
China.
your claim was. You said they were outperforming,
Yes, they are.
Wick. That's a lie, Wick. How are they outperforming them, Wick?
Well, we have a better standard of living. We have a better trajectory of. We do have a better standard of living in the West. There's a better standard of living. The average worker makes more in the West than does in China.
Massive mental illness rates, huge divorce rates, all these things. That's
do you not agree? Let me ask you this question: do you think that the average worker in the European Union performs better than the average worker in China?
You said that these countries are outperforming all patriarchal societies. How?
Again, the average worker in the European Union and America and the West in general has a better standard of living, makes more money, is more wealthy, and is healthier than China.
Okay, and what about let's move into some other criteria.
Of course. Just run the fuck away from that point.
Andrew, you're conceding that Wick was right there? You're conceding that Wick, don't you?
There's something wrong here.
Absolutely.
Hold on.
I'm literally contending with your fucking
Wow,
argument.
Andrew got bodied again.
Wick
3, Andrew 0.
Let's move into the criteria, Wick. What about mental illness rates?
You haven't even addressed that one. Why should we move on when you haven't addressed that point?
Yeah, I don't agree that those are the metrics only for a healthy society, Wick.
Yeah,
I'm trying to find a metric where they outperform.
When he said outperforming, he was talking about GDP and money, and we know it. And he could not respond because he knows that China's bodying all of those nations on the economic. Would you stop talking so I can make the argument?
Well, yeah, but you're
so anyway. Okay. Well, I don't know why he couldn't contend with it. All he did is say,
I bodied it. I didn't just contend with it. I defeated it.
Hang on. He wouldn't let me respond though, Wick. Just because you have a slightly higher standard of living, let's say, for the average worker, right? Those same nations that you're talking about, they still have massive abortion rates as well. In those Western nations, they're under replacement rate. Their mental illness levels are way higher, and the general dissatisfaction reported by the populations is generally higher in Western nations than in any.
Usually because they have better mental health programs.
I'd like to see.
Also, China's like 60th on countries for happiness under every Western country.
Yeah, in China,
the problem, you know what the biggest problem is with the happiness index?
China's fertility rate. Let's talk about birth rate.
They're the happiest.
China's birth rate is not above replacement rate. China's having huge issues when it comes to replacement rate.
I didn't say it was.
Fertility.
I didn't say it was.
So Andrew,
what's your standard for
Wick? So Andrew, what's your standard for accepting these metrics? Because you gave a metric for mental health.
Yeah. So we're going to start.
You expected them to accept
that.
Answer the question. Gave you a metric for happiness, and you didn't accept that.
Yeah.
So
well, no.
What makes your standard better than theirs?
First of all, when you're talking about happiness metrics, right? Baked into some of these happiness metrics are bizarre shit like you can have access to healthcare, or it's not another good way to do this, but that's what they do. If you look at the Nordic countries, if you look at the Nordic countries, for instance, Nordic countries will often be cited as the happiest nations ever, even though the suicide rate is high, skyrocketing. Only recently started coming down, right? They don't even report that and make that into their metric, for instance, for happiness. So it's like, well, hang on. I'm almost done. Almost done. Because I only have one other question. So my other question is to Soy Pill. So Soy Pill, you were trying to corner
Right,
Jake
yeah.
by asking him this question, and the question was just this: Jake, what would you do if none of these things worked? And you were obviously angling that you wanted him to say, well, we would like open up, I don't know, like grape cages for women.
No, not even.
basically
I
what
was
you're
actually trying to just get him to say the same thing I said. What is, if it's
Oh.
existential?
I mean, I don't know. One of these points is bullshit from Andrew Wilson because he brings up happiness metrics when he's on the fucking whatever podcast all the time. He'll bring them up all the time where when some OnlyFans chick will be like, I'm just living my best life, and I think women generally are pretty happy, you know, in the modern era with feminism, blah blah. And he'll be like, that's statistically and categorically incorrect. I mean, if you look at fucking any study or any metrics revolving happiness and women post second wave feminism, those numbers are down. They're down across the board, blah blah blah. And I think this is he's arguing from a place of convenience, I guess. I don't know, bad faith convenience. I don't know what to call it, but he's happy to cite happiness statistics on the whatever podcast, but now he wants to use it against Wick. So
then we should do something like that. And if it's not, then we won't.
Would you do something like that? Would you open up?
If it was
rape cages for
existential,
women?
I would open the rape cages because otherwise we're all dying. Do it.
Now,
Yeah,
Jake,
but Soy Pill,
now, Jake,
why do you
hang
think...
on. I'm almost done, man. Now, Jake, would you open the grape cages?
Sorry, no, I wouldn't.
You wouldn't.
So
I
you
don't,
let
I
everyone
don't know.
die.
It sure sounds. Well, okay. Hey, by that same metric, then, Soy Pill, would you diddle a little boy to save humanity?
If it would save humanity, I'd do it as many times as I had to.
I kind of figured you would.
I disavow the rape cage, the grape cages, and I disavow the boy diddling. Okay?
Have a wonderful evening.
The virtue statement gets us nowhere, right? Like,
See you later, guys. That's all I need. Thanks for
Andrew, I have an Ivertech Q and have always
there's no
felt
point in
the state of
caring
devils.
about something like that.
But can we
if
just
it means we're all
acknowledge-
gone anyway? So that's really stupid.
But can we just acknowledge,
to
like, he was
appear
just
on Chris Hansen's To Catch a Predator very soon.
Hold on,
and I'll be a hero.
If I may, just real quick.
All right.
If-
I don't want to talk about.
Yeah,
the arena
but if I may,
people want to shove gender norms.
Sure.
on
So
kids.
I think that
Go
like
ahead,
can we just acknowledge just at least with the China point how wrong Andrew Wilson was, like by every metric here.
Wick, shut
He
up.
was
No one
simply
cares. Hey, Soy Pill.
incorrect.
Soy
Like
Pill.
I don't know
So,
who you
I got
are,
a real
localism,
question.
right? I don't
You're
get
an idiot.
it,
Shut
right?
up,
But
dude. You're
the
clearly
adults are
retarded.
talking,
We don't
the
care
men are
about what you're
talking.
saying. You make no points. You just
You need to
blah,
ask
blah,
your
blah,
wife's
blah.
boyfriend before
I
you're
got a
able to
real- I got a
speak,
real
okay?
question.
Hold on,
So you
hold
can
on,
do
hold
that
on,
later,
hold on.
localism. You're gonna let me finish.
Stop. Go ahead, Wick.
Yes, you're going to, as I said, you're going to let me finish, right? You're not going to interrupt because that's how this works. You understand that, right? You understand the dynamics at play here. Good.
So
Now
you're
that we've
agreeing
gotten
to
that
each
out of the
other.
way,
Stop.
right? Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's talk about like this idea. This is a frustrating part of
Wait,
this
you wouldn't
discussion.
say none of that
is
to his
I,
face.
I can cite facts.
I would
I can
say all
cite
that to his
figures.
face.
I can
Gents.
cite all these things that
He's done
are
nothing.
actual, real
Okay,
things,
you're gonna
tangible,
keep-
measurable
hold
things.
on. I apologize. I have to. I'm going to put you backstage. You're going to go learn some manners because when I asked you to stop, you didn't. I'm going to bring up Ryan because I know you are
We
respectful.
need to
when
bring
I
in
asked you-
Gail as well. I think
Also,
Gail's
it's
back
a little
there.
rich to complain that you got cut off and then bloviate about how awful the person is instead of getting to your fucking point.
Go ahead, Wick.
Sure. I'll be very brief. The frustrating part of this conversation is I can deal with facts, figures, statistics. We can point to things that are actually happening in the real world, and they don't address it. They don't ever actually contend with these things, and that's just frustrating to me. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Wick.
All right, Sarah, I've got to dip out, but it was nice, absolutely and completely and utterly eviscerating these two nerds for the whole entire night. Cooley,
being
good to
good
see you
boy.
again. It's been a while.
Good to see you, Jake.
Sarah, it was an absolute pleasure, and you guys have enjoyed. Maybe bring up Gail instead of me, Sarah, because I think he's a
I
good
see Gail.
replacement.
He's ready.
Yeah.
Hey,
Thank
Wick,
you,
I got a
Jake.
question for you, Wick.
The right wing is not being replaced at a
Wick, I got a question for you. So Wick, you said that you would adhere to some of the Christianity values and stuff like that. You think that America and society should move towards Christianity. With that being said, Wick, should women obey their husbands and be subservient to them?
I think that people should follow the words of Christ.
Oh,
right? And I'm not
no.
a Christian, to be clear.
Oh,
But
no.
Answer the question.
I am answering the question. So no, right? I think that this is a
No,
standard.
that is against Christ. What are you talking
Again,
about?
That was,
what do you mean?
That was the words of an apostle. That was the words of
What
an
are you
apostle. That was
talking
not.
about?
I was commissioned by Christ.
What are you talking about?
One at a
Cool.
time.
You know what he's talking about if you let him
Yes,
answer.
Yeah.
Can I try to bridge the gap? Wait?
Well,
Look,
if I can answer the
I know the
question,
Pope
right?
just died, and I'll have you guys know that God speaks directly to me now, and he said that women don't have to do that anymore. So
When I talk about following Christ, I mean Christ, his words, his teachings, like the Sermon on the Mount and things like that. I'm not talking about the apostles.
Well, how do you interpret the words of Christ? How do you know your interpretation is correct?
How do I know my interpretation is correct? Well,
Yeah.
Christ gave a good example on how this is true, right? Because he gave a way, a criteria to decide whether or not someone is speaking truth or not. Do you know that?
Yeah, well, I mean,
well, hold on.
it's not just him that like
Gail.
for example. Yeah, well, I've read the Bible. I've read the
Okay,
Bible.
then you would know the answer to this question.
So in regards to the Old Testament, we should just get away with the Old Testament?
Yeah, like the fruits of society. And I see a low birth rate. So what are you talking about?
Guys, I'm getting something right now. God's saying both the books are irrelevant, and we should stop talking about this.
Actually, you understand Christ fulfilled.
Well, no, it's clearly relevant because
that's why we don't have right. That's
all right, gentlemen. Rachel with a Big 10 added in. They don't have the hand strength, you absolute spoon. It has nothing to do with instruction. Also, you couldn't beat me in a debate if your life depended on it.
You're not allowed to speak. You don't believe in the 19th Amendment, Rachel. But I also don't believe you. I think you are just a terrible, terrible instructor. Everything else you do is terrible.
I can speak in that a little bit.
All right, hold on. Excuse me. I said if my voice is talking, that means yours is not. Go ahead, Mel, please. If you wanted to respond to the super.
I think that's a weak argument because, first of all, anyone who can, it relies on trust me, bro. It's anecdotal, which is the weakest form of evidence. But also, if you can find one woman whose hand strength is strong enough, then that shows that women are capable of doing that. It's not an absolute truth. And therefore, since it's not an absolute truth, that doesn't mean we can condemn women to saying you'll never be able to load a gun.
Well, to be fair to Rachel, she said that it's like 70%, but my stepmom's also a firearms instructor, and she does that assessment. Just she laughed when I told her that. So I think Rachel's potentially just a bad teacher. So, and that wouldn't surprise me, you know.
K to the Swiss with the Big 10. I'm invoking the name of Andrew Wilson. Yes, you said it. He showed up.
Dog shit arguments, and he's gone.
These were from earlier. NS Crisis with the Big 10. I know a certain man who's about to come on who knows more than enough about Christianity to let you know. Yeah, that was pretty.
I was already on, and like I said, God speaks to me directly, and all and every word that I say going forward is the direct word of Christ, and we should all listen to me.
Just real quick, I'll be very brief. If anyone wants to debate me on Christianity and the teachings of Christ, I'd love to have that discussion. It's something I don't get to use a lot in this space, unfortunately, but I would absolutely challenge anyone who thinks that they know more about
I guess my first question.
I asked you a question and you failed at it. So, I mean, who would want to debate you if you can't even answer?
Actually, you did. You're not a debater either.
Well, it's that, and it's also I'm just wondering why should I prefer the teachings of Wick, his interpretations of Jesus Christ, over Paul, who is a direct apostle of Jesus Christ, who saw Jesus Christ.
I can't hear a word any of these people are saying.
This message is sponsored in part by.
All right, that is
almost bust a nut live on TV because you played that.
Because that's why. That's why. You guys all get distracted by
Wick is excited right now because you played that. Wick face is red because you played that. That's the only booty that Wick ever seen in many years because you. Listen, Sarah, you just made it.
How come you're the only person here who can figure out that's your cue to shut the fuck up?
Who said that? Someone without a camera, right? What dork said that? Some dork without a camera?
I'm just saying I have better panel etiquette than you.
Oh, it was the dork without a camera. Come on.
Brain Ride with the Big 5 says Cooley and Jake did awful in this debate, especially Cooley. He just asked questions but had zero arguments and resorted to insults. Next time, get Andrew. Cooley, do you want
Brain Ride?
Hold on. If Andrew, I want to build a bridge.
Hold the fuck up, all of you. Please. Stop it. Who did I ask? Can anybody tell me who I asked to respond to the super chat?
I think you
myself and I
think that was Cooley.
Thank you. David, would you like to respond?
I mean, Amber, this is his opinion. But I think Andrew Wilson is a great debater. In regards to me asking questions, I posed my arguments in my opening, and then I also restated some of my arguments, but they just couldn't answer certain specific questions and would move the goalposts. So that's what happened there. So the person that sent the super chat most likely has low IQ.
No,
so there's another insult. Yeah, there's another insult.
Your name is for answering your questions were bullshit. Not every question can be answered with a yes or no, especially when you keep moving the goalposts after they give you the answer.
Who's talking? Dude without a camera? Oh, no wonder why your camera was off.
And I'm also better at debating than you. I don't need a camera to debate. But
that isn't you. My bad. Dang. That's
were you trying to make a comment about me here? Is that what you're trying to do
like,
here?
God dang. Who put your camera on if you speak? And only females want to hide their face. And not the good females like Sarah.
If you saw my camera right now, you see a big finger.
Oh,
big middle finger
thank you, David. I don't hear that a lot.
So was that directed at me, Cooley? Was your little comment directed at me? Because if it was,
I thought that was you speaking. I thought that was you speaking.
All right.
I just want to point out we're fighting right now, and we haven't even picked a topic to fight about. That's just how great the panel is right now.
All right, Duck, go ahead and throw out something then.
All right, I will throw something out. Andrew, while he was on, and he's not here to defend himself, so I'm not going to say anything about Andrew in particular. But one of the things that he missed that I didn't hear either Wick or Cooley talking about is that in the United States, we often think of gender roles in terms of institutions. We want to ask questions about how women participate in systems of education, in democratic representation. We want to report to the world our per capita GDP. We want to be able to break down those stats for males, for men and women, And I know Melanie might not like this, but we also might talk about that in terms of what types of roles and jobs people do. And so I don't think it's possible to talk about gender roles without thinking about where people are actually being a man, where people are being a woman, or where they're trying to ditch that label in the first place.
So
wait, Duck, why wouldn't I like that? Duck, why wouldn't I like that?
I don't know. We'll take it to Discord or something, but I think we're in a spat right now. Even though we disagree, or we agree 99% of the time. I think I'm still really affirming a lot about gender there.
But I don't see why it has to go to Discord. I'm saying instead of artificially making certain jobs only for one gender or another, we say, okay, if you're a woman and you want to be a construction worker, do that so long as you feel fulfilled doing that. I doubt somebody who's not able to do a job will feel good at doing it and will want to keep doing that job. So all this is going to do is lead to natural selection in the workforce.
Well, Melanie, Andrew's a professional debater, actually, so that's natural.
Well, I do want to address Nate's point directly, because I think that we did talk about men's and women's roles when it comes to protecting the home, and I don't think that's an institutional thing that we discussed. In fact, I'm other than perhaps the military, the military, I don't think we discussed institutional gender roles much at all. Most of the time was spent talking about what men and women should do in the matters of the home.
But I'm saying that's a problem, Wick. That was my point. That was the point I was making.
That it's a problem to discuss it specifically when it comes to things in the home. Are you saying that we should discuss it more on an institutional level?
Yeah, I'm saying I don't think if I was thinking about having this conversation with someone it impacted, I wouldn't be thinking specifically and directly about like someone, like, okay, if you do laundry for 10 hours a day, that's something that me and you would talk about. But if I'm trying to decide on like a social level, I'm also interested in knowing about like what types of jobs you might have applied for. I'm curious, like what level of education you finished with. Like, I want those facts and figures.
Well, I think it's perfectly fair to talk about it in a multi variety of ways, right? And we just didn't get to that, so I'm sorry we disappointed, but maybe next time.
I'm still really happy. I don't know if you can tell I'm a ray of sunshine.
I can tell you exude sunlight. Okay, sir. You're one of the most happy people that I've met today.
I'm about to get going, Sarah, but I appreciate you for having me on. And good debate. We'll do this another time, man.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Hit me in a DM, Sarah.
Wait, will you flex before you leave, Cooley?
Peace.
Careful how you say that.
Cooley, give us a flex before you go. I feel like you go to the gym. All right.
Real men aren't afraid of flexing. Real men aren't afraid of showing their muscles.
I do want to say this.
I'm doing it.
Maybe Sky, right? It's Sky. Right?
If I can actually cut in real quick, I only have a couple minutes left. I just want to address Wick's point because I never got to answer this question. Why should I listen to you about Jesus Christ rather than Paul?
So I think that you should probably listen to both, and I think that most of all you should listen to Christ.
Yeah, right.
But, let me ask you this: is Paul infallible?
I believe the words he wrote in the Bible are to be sacred scripture. They're inspired text from God. So
fair enough.
Not every single action Paul ever took was infallible, obviously, but
sure. Right. Well, we all know Paul's history, right? Before he became Christian, or I hope we do.
Yeah, of course.
Right? So he was a fallen man. He'd be the first to tell you that.
Okay, we get it. You went to church yesterday.
Well, he asked me a question. I'm trying to address him. Okay. If you're not interested in the conversation,
this is the topic.
Fine.
Well, he's trying to ask this question because it's now.
He wants to ask the question. I want to answer the question. So please, right?
And I want to hear Wick's answer too.
It's not going to be Wick who rerails this train, apparently.
My God. Okay. Right? Can I not have a conversation? If you don't want this to be in this conversation,
I only got like 5 minutes left.
We'll be real quick, right? If you want to have a more in-depth conversation.
Here, let me just throw this out there. Everybody always says, I only have a few minutes left and act like there's a sense of urgency so that they get to have the mic for all that they want. It never means jack shit to me when you say that either on screen or in the private chat or whatever. Just let that be known. Nobody gives a fuck when you say that, okay?
Okay. I'll just make the argument right now then. That's just perfectly fine. I would value Paul's words more than yours. Firstly, you're not a Christian. Paul was. Secondly, he had direct connections to the apostles. I mean, I think it was 2 Peter, where Peter, who was the most mentioned apostle in the Gospels, said, hey, listen to Paul. He's right about things, which is why should we feel your interpretation rather than Paul's of Jesus' words?
Well, again, by their fruits you shall know them. And well, yes, I think that most things, Paul's probably got the right idea. I think that in the specific question I was asked regarding should women be able to speak at church or should they obey their husbands, I think that we have moved past a point that we were in the biblical times. And I think that when we talk about Christ, about his specific teachings to treat others how you would want to be treated, the golden rule, right? I think that supersedes anything that might contradictory that Paul might say.
And then last question specifically, I mean, if we're going to judge the fruits, I would just look at the various societies that operate under traditional Christianity, which is basically most of human history after the Roman Empire, at least in Europe and America. And we see these are successful societies that have successful birth rates, and they prospered in some cases. Is that not judging fruits? Is that not showing that traditional gender roles produce good fruits?
Do you think I'm anti-Christian?
No, I'm just wondering because you're attacking Paul on this point, and it's clearly showing, at least in a lot of these societies, with traditional gender
According
roles.
to your
Sure.
perspective, according to
Well,
your
we can look at
conclusion.
Europe after the printing press was invented, and we had the rise of Protestantism, and we had basically 200 years of war and destruction in Europe, which was why a lot of them fled to America to found America. So
God is telling you right now
bag.
directly to move on, Wick. It's saying next question.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I have. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome.
Mike Gill.
Well, with that, then I think I'll probably just say one thing and then bounce off. It seems like there's like plenty of progressive representation on the show. I don't want to overpower the panel, but I'll just say my opinion on the topic. You know, if someone wants to live traditionally, it's awesome. Knock yourself out. But if we act like that's the default setting for society, I think that's where the problem comes in. Because those roles are generally not designed for freedom; they're designed for control. And most people did not choose them historically; they were assigned to them and enforced on them. And if people want to cosplay the 50s, that's fine, but don't enforce on others and pretend it was a golden age. Because for a lot of people, it was a cage. And I think roles should be earned, chosen, or negotiated, not handed down like a script. Tradition can be cool as fuck, but not when it's again like assigned to or forced on people. So that's all I want to say. I'm Radical Coder. It's good to see you, Sarah, and Soy and Will.
Hell yeah, Ryan, that was great. I appreciate your comments.
I do want to say this to Soy Pill because I can tell that I'm probably going to disagree with most of what you, Wick, Nate. Obviously, I know Mel and I, we
obviously
respectfully disagree on a lot of stuff. But I thought you made a great counterpoint when you talked about in the debate where when they were talking about the time when there was gender roles, and you said, yeah, but look, we had also and I think both of you guys mentioned this, where there was feminism became a result of that top-down control, right? Within the culture. And I think this is something that a lot of traditional red sphere, manosphere people kind of just miss on this point, which is that people don't realize that the birth, there was a lot of birth rates happening in the 50s, but there was a lot of like underground abortion rates going up out of in the stratosphere in that time as well.
Yeah,
as a direct
as 40s was as well a big influence. But yeah, I agree. Like, I mean, obviously, I agree. You're saying my point, but yeah, it's like feminism came up during these times that they want to go back to, and they have no way to enforce that feminism doesn't happen. And clearly, this appealed to people. And I think their only answer to that was, oh, well, it's because of propaganda. Well, it's okay if so, propaganda can completely dominate your entire world structure and society. Then it sounds like you have a shitty society that's susceptible to an idea that's more appealing to people, which is freedom of choice for women and men. So
right, and I think that's the problem. Whenever there's a prescription for how to get back to the good old days, and it's built on an enforcement structure where they don't understand that things become reactionary as a result of that. And I think this is something that gets missed a lot in that conversation. And I just wanted to say, as someone that tends to be on a more of a conservative sphere, I thought that was a great point that you made.
Yeah, I think.
Can I bring up something?
Can I jump in between? Sorry.
You've already jumped in once. You talked over me once. This is my turn. It goes one tit for tat, right?
Hold on. Mel, go ahead, and then to you, Nate.
I just want to make a simple point free for anyone to respond to, of course, but Nate also wants to go next, bear in mind. The argument was made, and I also find this to be a weak argument, that women are slightly weaker than men, or men are slightly stronger on average. That's not an argument for essentially making women totally powerless, right? Like a slight difference in power does not translate, does not follow into now women should just be domesticated into the household, not have any rights, can't vote, all this shit. Like, those are two totally different arguments, just so people are clear on that.
Yeah, they can bring it up like
I can make a better argument.
Pardon me for just a moment. I'm going to DJ Nuts. I think you've been the quietest on panel. I'm going to boot you, and here's what I have to do, only because Grid actually has a priority seat on this panel. I'm just going to boot you, kick you, let him come in, and then you'll have to come back next, all right? Not saying you can't be here, but I need a seat. Nobody else click the link to jump on. It is only for Grid and Grid alone. If anybody tries to jump backstage right now, I will immediately boot you, and I might even just ban you for not following instructions. All right. K2, the Swiss says, none of you low T Sallies have the guts to 1v1 Andrew right now. And if anybody does want to go up against him, I'm happy to set that up for you.
Look,
the same way, I'm totally down.
I've had one-on-one debates with Andrew Wilson a couple times, right? If he wants to go again and try to make it a hat trick for me, he's fine to do that.
I would listen to Andrew talk for 2 hours. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, that's cute. How about you fight me first while I'm on this panel? I actually have a fucking argument for you guys, huh?
Hold your argument, Chris, and I will let it come right back to you. Clayton Turner with the Big Ten says, will someone tell Brett and Hitman Hart and Oscar from Sesame Street that we're all good, the definition of manhood? And then Chef times Tommy is enjoying their new membership. And Sarcastic Saint says, Ryan in the back for being a fake man and sounding more like a little girl. Mel sounds more manly. than you and Sarah acts more manly than you. Okay.
I'll
fair
take that
enough.
5
Fine.
since Ryan left.
I will accept. Well, it came in just a little bit ago, so I did miss it. I apologize.
I want to hear from Phil. Hi, Phil.
And pardon me for just a moment. I'm going to let Grid take over for the next 60 seconds while I go and tinkle. But Chris, I want you to go ahead and bring up your argument.
Oh, hi, Grid.
Take over.
Well,
All
just
right.
control
Guys.
the panel.
Yeah, it's very simple. Is there one gender role that's responsible for reproduction? If that's the case, we need people to have a society. That's the whole fucking argument. Men can't have babies, women can. That's the need for gender roles. It's
That's
very
amazing.
simple.
You really like dissected
I thought
the
you were
entire
going the
debate. That's
opposite
awesome.
direction.
Just
Can
cut
you
through it.
dispute that? Can you
Yeah,
dispute that as an actual argument?
No one's arguing
If a
against
woman has
women
two,
having babies.
can I respond to Chris because this was my argument. If a woman has 2 kids in her lifetime, that's 18 months of actually bearing the child. Childcare exists. Therefore, the woman doesn't have to spend her entire life dedicated to a house.
Okay, if there's one gender, I'm going to say it again. If there's one gender role that can have
Jesus
babies,
Christ.
that means it's important because without babies, no people. Very, very
Yes.
simple.
Chris,
Somebody
I have a
dispute
side
that
note.
argument.
Have babies.
The problem is, are gender roles important or not?
Do you
You guys need to make an
Chris,
opposite argument.
Answer,
Chris,
Chris.
you
You
think
sound
all women
repeat,
should
so
have
Grid, why
babies?
don't you go ahead?
Chris, if you'll entertain me, I have a simple answer. I like cooking with onions and garlic. My wife doesn't. That's it.
That's I don't care about your preference, bro. Make an argument. And the 2 fucking Nancy's in the top left corner make an argument. They're the ones
You didn't make an
debating this
argument
shit.
for what I said, Chris. You ran from my argument.
Bro, you don't even make arguments. Come on my show. We can fucking argue. I want to argue with them because they're the ones actually debating up here.
Every
Yeah, you
woman
run
should have
again.
kids.
Bro, birth rates are down. We need birth rates up. It's very simple. What does that got to do with
Maybe
gender
I asked
role?
this wrong. Let me try this slower.
I mean, I
this
think
time.
you and John should have
Yes
a
or
date
no?
and
Do you
just
think that every
hilariously talk
woman
about birth
should
rates
have
for the
kids?
next 20 minutes.
If possible, yes. If possible, yes.
Okay, if you think every single one should, then technically it's a gender role by your definition. I disagree with that gender role.
Oh, that's a good argument, bro. That's a good argument. I love it. Hey, Dumpling in the corner. Do you want to go next?
Just a moment. Allow me to interrupt for just a moment. Andrew said he'll debate right now. Wick, I leave that to you. If you want to debate
I
right
did
now,
say I had about 30 minutes. I'm a little over time, but we can do it
that's fair.
tomorrow.
All
He's
these
gonna run.
50 men leaving.
Yeah, we can probably
Okay.
do it tomorrow. If you want us to do
No,
it
well,
tomorrow.
to be fair, any original panelist has the right to leave the open panel when they want. And it's also not considered rage quitting because I completely give them that option in advance. So
Yeah.
he's not rage quitting. It was already determined earlier. And so, yeah, but I will reach out to Andrew on your behalf, Wick, and we can set
you can
something
make
up
that
if you
happen
want.
if you'd like.
Sure.
Sure.
I was
before-
upset that the other panelists left because I feel like I'm on the more trad side in terms of the things that I like live out in my own life and the things that I generally accept. But also I found Wick and Soypill, friends of mine, very convincing. And a question I didn't hear the original panelists answer super well that I would love to hear maybe the more trad people here answer is try to balance for me this question of nature and nurture, where I feel like I heard the original panelists saying there's a strong role of propaganda, right? That pushes women towards things that make them have less babies and do things that they think are ultimately bad. But it seems like they think stop short of propagandizing them into things they actually find fulfilling or satisfying, right? Where even me as like I would assume a relatively more trad in my own personal life, I just think over time, like, yeah, women find things satisfying in different cultures and situations that they don't in other cultures and situations, find men attractive that they do or don't in other situations. I just didn't feel like, I don't know, those two things didn't come together for me in a way that was satisfying, where like over here we have the propaganda that's pushing women away from everything that will ever make them happy, and somehow they're just like totally ignorant of this, and they just don't know that they're actually freaking miserable about all their choices that they're making in this like new free society.
Phil,
I don't know.
you are too smart to not be on our side. Get over here, man. Let me drag you over, Phil.
And
Like Chad
DJ Nuts with a big 5, already crying about it. If you want people to not talk over each other, maybe don't kick them when they try to follow your rules. Guess what? Grid spent $10 for me to boot anybody I wanted backstage. That's my right. That's how we play here. If you don't like it, fuck off. All right, back to whoever was
yeah,
talking.
so two things, because I want to, Eucharist, we love Eucharist over here. So he's my favorite conservative. He's someone I really respect, and we spar on occasion, the council nights and all things like that. But I really respect him, so thank you. I think it's an interesting thing that I would like to hear an answer on that I didn't. But the second thing I have to say is I do have like 2 minutes. So if anyone has questions for me, not to take over your panel or anything like that, but just if any has questions for me, now's the time, and I'll address them as quickly as I can. Cool.
Did we say I was his favorite conservative?
No, Eucharist is my favorite.
Said Chris. Yeah. So Wick, I actually did have some questions for you. I'm glad you brought this opportunity up front. You said that you are a Christian, yeah?
No, I'm not a Christian, but I was raised Christian, and I do consider I try to follow Christ. I do have some personal, like, I'm agnostic, I guess, if you want to say, because I'm not sure, right? But I do have some things, but I do think that the world would be a better place if everyone actually followed Christ.
Okay, so you believe in Christ, but you're agnostic to the existence of God?
I
Is that a fair
believe
thing
that
to say?
what
Are we back on this again?
Sure, come on, let me actually have this.
Well, he only has the 2 minutes, right?
Yeah,
So I can't
yeah,
ask him too
sure.
much.
I think that the things that Christ taught and the way that he lived is good, and that people should emulate that. He was the great exemplar, and I think that as an example, he should be followed, regardless of whether or not he was divine. That's a different question. But the question was his teachings? Will it make people better if they follow his teachings? I think that the answer to that is a resounding yes.
So you see Christ as just like a great
I'm
moral
agnostic.
figure.
I don't know.
Yeah, but you view him as a moral figure,
Yes,
essentially.
yes, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, fair
Well,
enough.
I've got an argument that's not based on religion. If you guys can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, thanks. Yeah, this is for Wick and Soy Pill. Like, you guys have been saying the entire time that you just don't believe in enforcing gender roles. This is the slippery slope where society ends up going down the drain because not we, but the people who end up pretending, oh, it's really good if you can choose and stuff, is what's better for society. Just one example is I cover combat sports on my channel, and nobody, aside from the really delusional ones, would argue that women's MMA or women's boxing is just as good as men's, because it's not, nowhere close. And this is because women don't belong in athletics typically. So having this brain dead idea that it's really better if women can choose. That's why you find, this is one of the points Chris made earlier, you have so many women who are depressed because they've been told that they should be pushing for careers, they've been told that they should be pushing for things, not having a family, and this is why women are depressed. And you've got Republicans in Congress right now. Mark Dice did a video on this the other day.
Are you gonna ask us a question, or are you just gonna do your own little show here?
Yeah, I would say land the plane.
Yeah, okay. Having this argument that it's better for society if women can choose when you're presenting an idea that is completely bad for women. You're giving them an excuse to make a choice which is just objectively bad.
Well, first of all, that's not a question. Second of all, if women want to choose to be depressed by joining the workforce and suffer under our capitalist overlords, I think they should be able to. And it sounds like you think we should force women not to work, and I disagree completely. I think that's worse overall. And when we did that, feminism came about, and it made them have the right to choose. So it's probably going to come back no matter what. So
women can have children and work afterwards, bro.
Yes,
That argument.
you're deflecting again because you're saying that it's better for them to have a choice. This choice, as I just explained, I could have summed it up better, but I just explained this choice of them going into the workforce is not good for them. That's why they are depressed.
Do you think
right, so should we force them to not have that choice, right?
Answer your question. It should be encouraged that they don't go into the workforce because they're not happier there.
Sounds like you're advocating for choice because you don't want to force them not to work.
Can I ask a question just real quick? Fight Sports Talk, is that your name? Fight Sports Talk, right?
Yeah,
do you think that people should be allowed to choose things that make them unhappy?
Yes, but in situations when it is proven to make them happy, it is proven that they are not happier in the workforce.
Mate, I think you're arguing with yourself a little bit there because you don't realize you're advocating for choice.
This is why you're interrupting, because you don't want to hear my answer.
And it's because your answer's not good, mate.
No, I want to hear his answer. Give him a second.
When it is proven that a choice is not what makes them happy, in this particular case, women being in the workforce, and it affects society because therefore children don't have the kind of upbringing that they should have, it should be encouraged that they choose the better option, which is not going to the workforce, it's raising families.
Well, so I want to hear Chris expand on his women can go into the workforce after they have kids thing then, because it sounds like you guys are fundamentally opposed. Chris is saying, well, yeah, they can have kids and then go into the workforce. So it sounds like Chris is open to more choice than fight.
No. Do you understand? Rachel Wilson was a housewife and then she worked afterwards after raising children.
Okay, whatever. This is done. I'm out of here. Shang Soviet, Stop Animal, Malibu, Conrad, Sparkle, Darn Premium. Oh, that was a bot. Whatever. I'm out of here. I'll see you guys later. Peace.